Hello, everybody. Have an O. Hello, all of the O's.
Hello, hello, everybody.
What's up, party people? Thanks for listening to the bird call. I closed my eyes, and at the end of the bird call, Jackie was there, and I'm like, oh, it worked. It
Hello, I'm here.
Looks like a
Hi.
little ocarina.
is an ocarina.
Oh, nice.
Sweet guys. All right, I have a question to pose you guys before we get started. What if you were a sound? If you were a sound, what would you be? Like just a sound that represents you. So I've already gotten this. Like there was a little kid who told me this one time. Like I proposed this question in a play shop I was doing with a bunch of kids, and, and we were all going around, and they gave me the thing. So this was not even my own thing, but the sound I was given was like they actually went like that. That was the sound they gave me. So who wants to take it next? Anybody want to volunteer, or should I pick somebody?
I'd be a theremin, or the sound of a theremin.
Like what is that? Like
No, the theremin. It's an instrument. Like it works with like energy and waves, and it's usually used in like scary movies, like the whoo. But it's an instrument, so I would be the sound of a theremin.
I think it's in
Cool.
Star Trek, right? They use that in Star Trek. The sound of yeah.
Yo, if they do use it in Star Trek, that makes it even more. That makes much more sense because my name, Ilea, is from Star Trek. So I'm gonna take that, Charlie. I'm gonna take that.
Yeah.
Sweet. Who wants to go next? Any volunteers? What sound effect are you?
Yeah, I like to be a drum. Boom, 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 boom. Just really deep drum.
Nice.
The sound of the Tibetan singing bowl resonates with me quite a bit these days, where the
Nice. I love that. All right. And then there were two.
Oh, all right. Gonna go for the sound of some crashing waves. Yeah.
I like that.
Okay, so when you asked this, I immediately got a visual of those like noisemakers that you like spin the wheel and it starts off like really soft and then it's like super blazingly loud. And I was like, yeah, that's about right. So
I love that. Nice. Well, thank you for sharing all your dum-dum sound effects. Y'all, here we are. We're homeless again, but we're not, because the whole earth is our playground. Still, that's the beauty of it. And so certainly there's been aspects of me going like, what is going on here? Like what is going on? But there's also maybe something beautiful here too. And I'll just share really quickly. I'm going to stay away from the deficit framing and bring us into some asset framing. And thank you, Adam, also to think about the what is the ripple effects of possibility from this situation. And I do think that maybe we need to create a portal. We need to create a portal. We need to open the portal first. Speaking of interdimensional, Stranger Things, all this stuff. So maybe we need to come together first, whoever can come together, and we create the space for ourselves, and we invite any other teachers or friends or colleagues that are like interested in opening up that portal. And we can also invite kids and parents and make it in a public space in a park. And whoever comes. Maybe we do it in a park that's already needing that vibration. I mean, Mick, when you brought up the park, I was like thinking about Cesar Chavez Park in LA and how that energy, there's like homelessness there. There's like a lot, it's a really weird energy. And like, what if we brought our energy there and opened a portal there, right? Like someplace like that, where there's like mostly Latin speaking folks, right? And we can just create a vortex there. So anyways, what are your guys' thoughts on all this stuff? That's kind of where I'm at, and what's kind of flowing for me is like maybe Saturday we focus on creating an NFT building experience for us, and whoever joins that is just extra. It's including kids.
There's something my friend who's a great musician, by the way, who most certainly, I don't know why I've not thought to include him in this earlier. Great musician, his name Wyatt Rogers, and he had Wyatt Rogers Healing, if you're going on Instagram. But he'd shared with me, in healing your sickness, you can help others heal. He was the friend who, in my midst of chaos of life, asked me what would happen if you led with love instead of fear, and is reframed my life in so many ways since. But yeah, with what you're putting out there, Indy, feel, there's a lot of possibility that comes from where we're at right now. And one of those is what happens if we do get people together? Because this, even though we want to create something that's going to light kids up, it can't just be like, we see what everything can become with this. So we can tell ourselves all these wonderful stories of, oh, this would be good, that would be good. But this has to be something that lights us up too. And so it is an opportunity to bring people that would want to co-create this together and really pilot this with, how can we create an experience that lights us up? And it's almost like we're the participants too. But anyway, I see the silver lining of things, and that's one of them. But yeah, it does suck. I mean, it's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It does suck, like, to have expectations, a whole thing built around. We've started to tell people about it, like, but we roll with it.
So I just wanted to jump in really quickly. There's a lot that's been coming to me the last couple days. So normally when I help with a project, because I've felt a little like I'm not bringing my best work to you guys, or like I'm like sitting down to do things and I'm like, why isn't this fitting or working? And oddly enough, that podcast that I sent you guys in the WhatsApp group, it came to me after this like really mundane meditation. Like I didn't think much like went on in this meditation. And then all of a sudden this podcast comes up, and I've been following Dr. Zach Bush forever. And there were 3 topics he specifically touched on that I was literally studying that morning. And I get really concerned about how much screen time I do. So like I force myself to do like physical books and journals and stuff, so that like nothing's being monitored. I know I just sound crazy now, but that's fine. So like when I heard this being repeated back in a podcast, I was like, wow, that's really mind blowing, because I know it wasn't attached to a device, like what came out of that morning. And it just, all these doors started unlocking. I've been telling people that I wanted to do a regenerative farm blockchain solution, farm to fork blockchain solution for like the last 3 years. I just casually say it. Everyone knows that's my deal. And like all these resources have been coming to me in like the last like 18 hours, like messages and people like Cardano, like there's a specific blockchain that's gearing up a lot of stuff. And anyway, it got me thinking about this project. And if you guys don't know, like crypto in the market, it's just an absolute bloodbath right now. Everyone's getting out of Web3 and leaving. I actually had a thought to myself that maybe that farm saw the flyer and saw an NFT component and got freaked out, because there's a lot of people in the holistic communities that are just not for crypto, and maybe that wasn't explained enough. Obviously it wasn't. But anyway, I think there's an opportunity, should this group come together and want it, to maybe provide some type of actual supply chain solution for a regenerative farm that could still incorporate NFTs, teenagers, kids. It would obviously be a larger scale project. I do have like access to all the people that could fund it. It would really just require of us like a business plan, a real thought out who we would pick, all that stuff. So that's what's been going on in my side of the universe. So I'm just laying it out there for you guys. I know it's a little bigger and unrelated to the event itself, so I don't want to sidetrack you guys from that, but that's just what's going on over here.
Thank you, Jackie. Aaliyah, we can't hear you. You're muted.
My bad, I'm driving, that's why. I was just saying I love it, and I'm so grateful, like, that alignment that you were getting yourself in, because I had a similar incident yesterday where I was trying to print the flyer, and it would not print. And I was like, what is this? Like, I was like, something's up, because I don't usually have, you know, and I was like, oh, you're just, Aaliyah, don't be like this. And then when I checked my email, I was like, mother. So I'm really grateful to hear Jackie talk about this. And something that I want to share with the group, right? All 6 of us, is that, you know, that email with that person, and the fact that we have all found each other, even though we're literally from all these different walks of life, because we have been resonating and beaming with this thought, beaming with this energy, and we found each other. It's because it's like spirit and universe, you know, however you want to call it, is not trying to get us to just connect and collaborate with someone who is not on board spiritually, who is not resonating, because we have dealt with that for so long and have been in those situations. Silver lining of this is that, to me, in addition to what everything else, what everyone has said, like Adam and like his friend was like leaning into love instead of fear, right? All these things that we've been deeply resonating and like healing from, like within ourselves. Jackie getting all these downloads and like things coming, like it's still related to what we're doing. It's just another like branch of it. So it's just, I'm super energized to be amongst this cohort of powerful beings who are really going to make something happen. And the fact that like universe is conspiring in our favor so that everything is aligning for our highest timeline, and not just because we want to get it done like this. And it's like pulling away things that are not in resonance and are not really there to help us to ascend the way we want to and the way we envision. So I love what's happening right now. That's all. Thanks, y'all.
Yeah, I think, Jackie, the thing you're saying is pretty awesome, actually, because I feel like it will give us more of a sustainability to really connect to what we're talking about, you know, being able to have any cities and anywhere in the country being able to connect to like local regenerative farms, and really creating a new supply chain that is more organic and decentralized. I mean, we talk about this all the time, and this is like decentralized because it's got crypto behind it. Like that's a huge thing. I mean, and we all kind of like all been also in the place where every time we try to create something new, you know, like there's a lot of challenges that come with it, because, you know, it's trying to like break status quo, you know, so it like requires like all of us to kind of gather together and get pieces of this bigger framework, whatever this is going to be. So that's all, like I do sense like we're coming here because we know there's a bigger picture of however it shows up. And yeah, I feel like this is just like a little bit of perspective shifts, just like, you know, maybe we can take on something bigger that's going to happen, you know. I mean, it's, I don't know, I mean, as we're really going to this space of like being the magical wizards and you know, people that we believe, like it's something's going on. So I'm definitely paying attention. But yeah, it'd be great to see like if we could do some kind of like, you know, day thing, like flash mobby, right? Like it's just go in, have fun, you know, see what we can do, and then grow from there.
There's as we were talking about this, I was trying to think of like, well, what at its core, like what are we doing? And what was coming to me was that we're essentially like helping people like wake up and come alive together. And what was pretty amazing is, so my friend Wyatt actually wrote a song about waking up, and like when you see problems everywhere, you want to like wake people up. And like, how do you wake people up without just leading with fear and being like, don't you see everything? The house is burning. And kind of part of the song talks about how you just need to be, and people will, you going around telling everyone, do you see the fire? Do you see the fire? Might not be the way to go about it. And so when thinking of why we're here, thinking of that song, and then envisioning, you used the word flash mob, Charlie, envisioning going to a space and kind of being an example of this, and letting people see this and ask what's going on, not because we're running around telling everyone like everyone's depressed and isolated and ecology is getting devastated, but instead like people to get curious by seeing this vibration that comes from this mob together. And it's kind of like there's this farmer in, was it Peru or Ecuador, Paul Earthwalker, who he just did his thing. He didn't go around and tell everyone, you should do this, you should do this. He just started doing his thing. And people started coming up and asking him, like, what are you doing? Like, because they would see the impact of this. And it grew crazy fast because of that, the influence he had in the country. So that was what was coming into my space hearing this.
I feel that so strongly, because those of you that have ever walked with me, like ever just walked with me physically, you'll know that that's how I love to show up in the world, is being a beacon of possibility, of connection, of interconnectedness. And so for me to feel like, oh, it's not just me and there could be several of us doing that, that's the dream, right? That's, we're so much more, it's synergistic. It's not even 1 + 1. We don't even know what Charlie plus Mick plus Tizzle plus Jackie plus Adam, what that effect is. That's not 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. That's something else that we don't know yet, right? When we're in a physical space, not in this virtual space, in a physical space, we don't know. We'll see. But Jackie, I'm going to push on that button a lot too. The word regenerative is so powerful right now, and people may not even know what it means, but they know that's something we need. It doesn't matter who or where background you're from. It's like kind of doesn't even matter at this point. We know we need that, right? And even WEF knows we need that, and they might not even be in the same vibration. So clearly we're sharing this story together of regeneration. Maybe that is our call out, right? Like if we do a flash thing and we do it in a park that's kind of like where there's a rush or movement or there's flow, maybe we could just set up some tents and just have the regenerative story be a part of what we're doing. Hey, sign up for these regenerative NFTs that we're going to be releasing. Sign up for these regenerative play shops that we're going to be hosting. Sign up for here, get involved with our regenerative. Maybe you have something regenerative to offer. Or what do you want to share, right? So exactly what we're doing in this digital space, can we do it in a physical space? And create just a call,
So didn't LA allow for basically any public space to be able to like grow food on it? I mean, that's because you can't do that here in Houston, but like if you do it in LA, like what if it became a thing where like you had different groups of people maintaining like, growing food right on in LA like streets.
Yeah, that's Ron Finley. He got that passed.
Yeah.
He's the gangster gardener. If you guys haven't watched him before, he's like,
That sounds awesome.
He is a character from South LA, total amazing, like firebrand of a fellow. And he started gardening in the sidewalk areas, and got in trouble for it, had to rip out a number of gardens, and like actually had the litigation like changed in LA because he's like, this is important for my communities. We're living in food deserts, and we need to be able to grow food wherever we have any little patches of land. So, yeah.
Well, and I think that's something that's interesting too. And I'm cognizant that I'm on a recording right now that's going to go on the internets. But in blockchain and in technology, regenerative has two polar solutions for how we approach this issue. So I think what's important for me and why I think this group is very powerful is the intention behind how you want to have this environment structured and where technology would be implemented and where it would not be implemented. So also in thinking about if this is a solution we want to do or something bigger we want to think about, would be, there's very important decisions just with the technology partners that you would want to make sure that this is in like alignment with the actual vision. I'm sure Mr. Ron Finley falls into a lot of these categories himself.
He'll check us because I've hung out with him and he does not take bullshit. He's like very discerning, you know, about dealing with people who don't walk the talk.
And Dr. Zach Bush, he talks about that in this podcast. I mean, he works with so many different farms, and that level of discernment you have to have, because there's a lot of people that want to offer regenerative grants and this and that and but it's not the way I think you guys would approach it. It's so interesting, the thing. Like, I just had a conversation before I jumped on this call, and it was someone giving me really good advice, and the things seemed to line up a lot with some of this agriculture stuff. And then, like, weirdly, he just made all these plays and started like direct messaging people and like including me. And I was like, whoa, like, slow down. Like, I was just seeking advice from you, and it turned into this like big, huge thing. And, you know, I stepped away thinking like, do I not trust people enough? Like, is that what's being reflected back to me? But what came up even more was there was another outlying like lady involved in this. And when I contacted her about things, the same issue, or not the same issue, but the same thing I was talking about, her solution was the same, but it was different people. And I immediately trusted her and felt like, okay, this is interesting that I had these two solutions to the same problem. And one, I immediately was like, whoa, no. And the other, I was immediately like, absolutely yes. And like, I don't have many moments like that. I'm usually quite indecisive. So this is like a new experience for me too. Like, I actually felt like intuition for maybe the first time in my adult life. So I don't know. I'm sharing a lot today. Sorry, y'all. Not sorry, but.
Only saris. Okay. Only wedding saris. Please, madam. Well, blame it always. You know what? Everybody always blames it on Uranus, right? Like, not my anus, but Uranus, right? So, you know, like, I want to encourage also in this conversation, because I've been feeling this too, that, you know, sometimes what we're also trying to do, we really like, and even Jackie talking about people being on the same vibration or frequency as us, and that's all very esoteric. But the thing that makes it not esoteric is us having some really clear like foundation of agreements, right? Whether that's our constitution or our Tao, right? I mean, what is the difference between all these things? They're just agreements that we build together. And then when anybody jumps on board with what we're doing, Emma talked to us about this, they have to review that and accept those agreements if they want to partner with us. And we need to go by them too, right? That being said, that includes like, you know, that includes kind of like sharing how I feel in this whole process too. I gotta admit, you guys, I'm heartbroken, and I keep getting heartbroken spending so much time building the website, creating the content, like doing the flyer, doing this. I'm doing all this stuff, right? And then I reach out to these places and they say no. I'm getting heartbroken. You see me on front facing right here, I look fine, but inside I'm really broken, and it's hurting a lot. And I'm like, fortunately, I have practices of resilience to reach out to, but I'm not doing well, guys. And the thing is, like, I can't be doing all that work. I mean, I don't care about the hours, but I do need to feel like we're all diving in and making ourselves vulnerable, right? To do this work. Like, and I'm not saying you guys aren't, but like, hey, like, we need to set some agreements with each other of like, okay, if I'm not giving 20 hours a month, and maybe that 20 hours a month can be a way that we can build blockchain, Jackie, of like, hey, when I log in my 20 hours, whatever my Indy's 20 hours or Charlie's 20 hours, Mick's 20 hours, that is also building our Solara or Solana, whatever. We can be receiving something for showing up for Cosmic Labyrinth too. So I feel we need to start doing that too, to be more professional and to practice intuitive professionalism, because this is not volunteering, right? And like Adam, I know you brought that in there, but I don't want this to be volunteering. This is something that we're building that is going to be a game changer, right? And the game changers are not volunteering projects, not in the world that has been. We're actually planting seeds for something that is going to fruit, right? And for that to be possible, we need to have agreements of like, yo guys, I'm telling you, if I'm doing all the flyers and I'm doing the website and stuff, I shouldn't be reaching out to farms to like do that. Like that's too much now. I'm feeling it, right? And like there should be some sort of shared like practice in this thing, because I'm also going to be teaching those play shops too, right? So what are we doing, right? Like how are we distributing roles and responsibilities? And maybe we need to clarify that too before we do anything on a farm, right?
So I would just say back to that really quick. So I think what I'm proposing here too is, if we do want to like potentially seek funding from a blockchain or like a Web3 solution or something that would like play into the NFTs and all of this stuff, like I found that the moment you go to apply for the money is when you get clear on what it is exactly you're trying to do. So, and I think maybe that's where I was just feeling the disconnect, is like doing NFTs for like a one-off event, or like and not really knowing or seeing how this fits into like a bigger picture was like giving me blocks. But if I have a very clear like, okay, we 4 times a year we want to bring these teens once a season, they're measuring this, they're working with the farm here, we have a 3-year collaboration program with them to at least assess what we've done in a 3-year program, like all that kind of stuff. If we can get, but I didn't want to like, I know that the Cosmic Labyrinth school is one part of it, and this would be a completely like separate part that goes into it. But I think I just didn't want to like overstep my boundaries or like things like that. But yeah, hopefully
There's no boundaries here. We're infinite beings. What are you talking about?
I don't know. I just feel like I came in a little late, and I think I'm a really slow worker. Honestly, this was one of the things I said to this guy today that went out and did all these messages. I was just like, you don't give me time to process what you've just given me. And then when you're like running, and if I move too slow for you, like that's cool. We don't have to work together, but I'm not going to get in the energy of like, oh, I got to make it happen. Cause like, I just don't roll that way anymore. But anyway, yeah.
Everything from my perspective is unfolding in a really beautiful way, because while this is also happening, we have 2 high school students that are interning that are essentially creating a playbook for what it looks like to start an Onora inspired club at their school. So it's an environmental impact club at their school that's centered around gratitude-based learning and innovation. And the project that they're doing, like the part of the process they're in right now, though, is connecting with their community to learn how other clubs structure their teams. So there's someone that's in the middle of starting their club right now. They've painted the vision with everyone of like, they've gotten input from everyone of this is the vision for the club, and everyone shared of like what their worst possible outcome looks like, their best possible outcome, like they're getting aligned on vision. And now and then they just ideated like, here are all the things that we think that like we want to get out of this experience. So whether it's a social club or whether they're doing a project together to improve their school, which is where we're at, like we've got this vision, and now we've been talking around like a concrete project to do. Where the students are at now is they're reaching out to high schools, other clubs at their school, other schools, to learn how those teams are structured. And it feels like we're in the same place right now, is like, at least it sounds like what you're putting out there, Indy, is our project is kind of evolving a little bit given the ebbs and flows of things right now. But what are kind of the roles that are needed to, like, what do we need to get done in order to create this best possible outcome we're looking for? But if we bring someone new in right now, right now they need to watch 10 different hour-and-a-half long Zoom recordings to like get to understand where we're coming from. And so the Pachamama Alliance shared this with me recently. So they're bringing in like contractors essentially to help with their programming. And they're a very, very heart-centered organization. And so if someone had gone through all their programming, they understand their ethos, that's one thing. But to bring in someone from the outside into your organization, like what are our values, agreements, like what are our principles, that whatever it is that we're creating, like this is us. And if you are on board with this, awesome. If there's friction for you with this, like let's talk about those. But it feels like since we all vibe, we kind of have this, unwritten understanding of some of those values things, but that's not explicit. And
yeah, Adam, I'm a
yeah.
mozzarella guy and you're a provolone guy, so I don't know if we can vibe, dude.
That's too cheesy for me, literally. So yeah, but that's what I hear coming up with what you're describing, because I feel a similar way as when Jackie was mentioning around like regeneration. I wrote down here, I was like, well, what is regeneration? Is this entire event around daily practices around regeneration, regenerative meals, regenerative learning, regenerative agriculture, but then I was like, wait, no, we're skewing from the way our conversations were going around tapping into astrology. And so if we don't have a clear container that we're playing within, and it's unwritten, like we don't have something to ground us, because we're going to create something dope. Like we're planting seeds.
We're super generational.
I'll jump in again too. So that lady I was working with, her and I have known each other a while, and Indy, I've been tagging her a lot of stuff with you. Her name's Aga. She's in Luxembourg right now, but we've been talking a lot about these concepts and just, what our space needs from how we see things, and sort of like, because right now Web3 is pretty much crypto bros. I mean, everyone knows that avatar, you can like pull it up in your head. So that's what we're kind of up against, because those are the people that get funded. And, if you're not that, then you better be, completely 100% in alignment with like what your government is trying to unroll and whatever. So I feel like we're somewhere in the middle of all of that. And there was a point to this. Oh, that's what it was. Aga and I were both remarking, like, the coolest thing about knowing you, Indy, is that you really use words very consciously and intelligently. And I'm sure there was retraining you had to do in your life of thinking things this way, no saying it that way. And the most interesting thing to me about the word regenerate is that in crypto, the big thing most of these people want you to be is they want you to be a DeFi degen. That means a decentralized finance degenerate. They want to know that you did all the bad stuff, because that means you know the technology well enough to build something new or whatever. And like, I understand that mindset, but I've never wanted to call myself a degen. I've never actually been a degen. So that's always been like a weird energy to me. Like, I know I don't want to do that. And then like, there was even like, another DAO that I could have joined was, resistance DAO. And I was like, well, I don't like the word resistance. What about resonance DAO? Or like, so, I mean, I even incorporate these things. And I think even just play shops around just literally saying sentences differently, using different words. And you're like, Indy, that's just like you. I feel like that is you. When I think of you, I just think of the neuroplasticity stuff, the like all of that. And I think there was a point, but I got lost again. Sorry.
Well, the words you say matter. How even the words that you say can breathe more life or take away life. And knowing the capacity for your words to create ripple effects that are regenerative, like it's regenerative language. Like, yeah, I just added language onto the running list of regenerative play shops, because it is like how I don't want to talk too much here, but I want, Indy, you were going to say something, but then I want to share a crazy Zach Bush story that like led me to this, all this stuff here. And it stemmed from crazy signals crazy signals.
I'm just gonna finish that last piece of my thought though. The thing with Egg and I, there was another thing we hated in this industry, and it was how everything is play to earn, learn to earn, do this to earn, to earn, to earn. So we actually came up with today, we were like, what about earn to serve? So that you're already like, you already have an intention behind how you want to use what you're going out and earning. So like if you earn to serve, and I think it kind of goes along too with like having the astral DNA charts, like knowing your strengths, your weaknesses, like, and just like we're all finding out now too, like how we serve and show up is probably going to change a lot through our lives. But like having those check-in points and actually using your rewards as this, you know, benchmark for yourself could be pretty powerful.
Yeah, speaking of Zach Bush, might as well just invite him, dude. 1 degree of separation we are. But this is kind of like, you know, there's two things here going on, right? We have this digital component, like we can't ignore this. We keep coming together in this way. Most of us are not like exactly next to each other physically. So we have this component, and we do need to build a skeleton, a DAO skeleton, an agreement skeleton, a constitution, something. We need to build a skeleton. Still, we also still want to gather physically. You know, that's been important. Charlie and I know we did this last year. We met at Mushroom Farm, and we did so much more in those 3-day retreat that we did than we did over like a year of meeting online over and over again repeatedly. Like it was so much synergy when we were physically around each other. So something to contemplate, I'm throwing this up in the air for all of us, is we, over the next couple of weeks, maybe we can start to actually build this skeletal DAO, right? At least, right? And start to learn. I mean, obviously, Jackie, we have so much benefit of having Jackie with us in this journey. And then when we meet in person, then we can do this open source, or we're like, we can while we're meeting in person, we can also do a laughter thing, like a flash laughter. We'll do some ecstatic dance. We'll do some sound bathing. Tizzle can do some art stuff. Mick we can just play around us ourselves. We'll invite people, family, friends, whoever, we'll invite them, strangers, we'll invite them, but we'll also collectively fill in the DAO that we develop over the next couple of weeks. So we can start filling those in with the community and being like, hey, we're building these agreements. What do you like? We'll just ask kids, we'll ask parents, we'll ask whoever's there, we'll ask each other, right? So I'm just throwing that in there. That's something for us to contemplate.
Can I read that back just to make sure I understood that? So basically using the next couple of weeks to plan a skeleton for our super DAO, and then come together, call it early July, to be in person for a couple of days to like dump together. And within that, within our first retreat, for us to essentially do play shops with one another and invite others who would be interested to just come to those. But we're going to more or less like doing play shops for one another while we're creating this DAO. And the focus being, how do we create a structure? How do we create a foundation that allows us to build what we're building, but let's align on our foundation. And that's what, like, reframe our focus to what is the foundation we're trying to create, and what are those principles that are guiding all of this moving forward. And that being right, because now instead of funding an event, you're now funding an infrastructure, and we now have a vision and a team that's just much more fundable. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm contemplating with that and sharing with y'all, and feeling that's the vibe, and including even in that too is for us to, you know, like connect and share with each other, because I always feel more regenerated when I'm around Charlie and Mick. You know, I personally feel more regenerated knowing that we're on the journey together. And so there's something to that that synergy that we experience, and that there's something magical there that I can't really qualify.
Well, I'm gonna just put this out there because since we have a baby coming at the end of July, I would love to do like in-person retreat with everybody. That is my only the timing constraint that comes up. So,
Well,
but yes,
I
yeah.
mean, Charlie, you still have your ticket, right?
Yeah, I'm still coming for that weekend. So if we wanted to just do that weekend, and plan that way, because we kind of all agreed, and we're gonna have that time off anyways, right?
And there's a Daybreaker festival at Tree People on Saturday morning on June 25th, and we can do that. We can also go do something fun together,
Yeah,
and then
it could be our way to Recon LA and figure out like what is our way to do, like, again, the minimum we're still able to do stuff, right? And then like the bigger picture, like basically go in and like start planting our metaphysical seeds in LA, and this is the bigger picture too. Yeah.
I'm just excited because I was about to say that'd be dope because then we could do Recon, and then Charlie, I was like, yeah.
So call it the big project that I would we since renamed it, but it was originally called Project Recon with Honora, because it's short for, so the whole concept actually was around how we go out into our community. And this was inspired by, basically, someone told me to look up Zach Bush, and my like Whoop fitness tracker said, go collect some data. And I was like, it never says that. And then I see another thing, go collect some data. And then I turn on the Zach Bush video, and this was my first Zach Bush video ever. And within like the first 2 minutes, it was like, go collect some data. He's like, you just got to go collect some data. I was like, this is crazy. And at the time I was like inspired by the power of ripple effects and how everything we do and say in our lives creates ripple effects. And so I was like, all right, I got to go collect some data. I have to go connect with people in my community and ask them, so this is around regenerative language, Jackie. I asked them, I said, you see the world through so many different lenses, as a parent, as a sibling, as a brother, as a, coworker. What do other people say or do that make you feel more seen, heard, valued, loved, appreciated? Like, you could experience 10 horrible things that put so much darkness into your life, but what's one thing that other people say or do that breathes more life into your life? And we had a whole conversation around that, and it was transformative. And that was the data we sought to collect. And so the project that we were set out to do was Project Recon, which was short for Reconnect. And how do we have these regenerative conversations? And that is actually call it the internship that Honora would help offer after after the experiences. We're piloting it with Farmers Footprint right now, where we have curiosity conversations with stakeholders in our food system. So having gratitude-based curiosity conversations where we're reconnecting with ourselves as we like go inward and reflect on what is the positive impact and positive ripple effects of the food that we eat. And then we actually go outward on our quest to then connect with stakeholders and share those positive ripples and get curious. And then we reconnect and share that with one another. And so Recon is, if we need another signal, Recon is in a lot of different places.
And before we get ahead of ourselves, Recon is like, if you live certain lives, a certain life of being an amateur scientist, Recon is happening all the time. And like for me, I'm doing it all the time. I don't need an excuse to do it. That being said, even Jackie, like I know the limitations were, like prices of tickets. And I want to put this out there that I would share responsibility in you coming out physically, in supporting you financially with that. If there is a way to encourage you to be able to come, if not just for a couple of days, that would be super helpful. So you can at least be here when Charlie's here at the very least, right? So I'm willing to put in, like, at least I'll cover half of your flight. And if anybody else wants to split that with me, that's cool, but I will.
I thought it was timing that you couldn't make it. We have a ton of JetBlue flights or JetBlue points. So I know there's a direct, yeah. So I thought it was timing that you couldn't make it. But yeah.
Thank you guys. It's really, really nice. To be honest, again, this is gonna go on the internet. So hello, internet. Whenever this gets discovered, Jackie Roach is going through the darkest period of her entire life. So there's so many factors going on, but trust me when I say that this group of people is so special. And the word regenerative, and I'm literally like I'm full AA style right now. It's just day by day. So I'll keep you posted on everything, but I can tell you that like this Dow skeleton and just sort of a lot of the weird things in my Web3 life over the last 3 years are like, they feel like they're culminating like in this moment all of a sudden. And Adam, when you're in, Zach Bush better be involved. So again, internet, do your job, tell Zach about us, get this video there. But seriously, like again, darkest period of my life, like Sunday morning, the stuff he said in that podcast was just, I really would encourage you guys to listen to it at, 2 times or whatever, 1.8 or whatever you can stand to listen to it at. But I think almost everything you guys are talking about, I don't know, Indy, can we talk about the laughter NFTs, or should we not talk about that here?
I mean, that's kind of like what would also be the benefit of us coming together physically, is some of the things we do together can actually lead to the NFTs we want to make, right? Like I would love for me to create these laughter NFTs with all of you there, and you guys are a part of that NFT because you guys are emulating the laughter I'm teaching, right? So like we're actually creating the physical infrastructure that goes with the digital architecture, So I mean, I see that very clearly for me, the longitude. But we like everybody's like Mick shared this. We need to also create this strategic plan that makes sense. So even when we come together, we're like, oh, we're actually coming together not just to do all this stuff together, but actually there is long intention for why we're coming together too. It's not just for the moment,
Okay.
Yes, you can. Yes, feel free to share it.
Well, there was part of me that was like, because money is such like a real thing going on in my life right now, there was part of me that was like, okay, well, could we possibly get funded or have something like in the next 10 days, which honestly in the crypto world is not impossible. Full on DAO funding, probably not. But the funny thing about these, I had this crazy idea about the laughter NFTs, and I was picturing like the Brady Bunch, and like if you heard a bunch of laughters and you had to pick like who it belonged to, and just what a funny game that would be for like so many people, because you'd be listening to laughter, then trying to figure out who, and then probably laughing about like, oh, I got it wrong or I got it right or whatever. So I was like, maybe we do like a laughter fundraiser, like power hour, like almost like a speed dating thing, and then like auction the NFTs off or like somehow monetize that. I'm sure there's a way to monetize that somehow. But I don't know. That was one of my crazy zany get rich quick schemes. I was using your life's work to
No worries. I don't own laughter as much as I would like to. I'm just kidding. I don't want to own laughter. But it certainly is something that we all should be contemplating, is how do we also support the creative stuff that we do? Because from what I know is Charlie is one of the most creative people I know. Mick is one of the most creative people I know. Tizzle is one of the most creative people I know. Right? Adam is possibly one of the most creative people I know. We'll find out, right? And so the thing is, we all have so much to offer. How do we also think about this stuff being regenerative to us and sustainable to us? And I think that's also a part of us coming together, and why I encourage you, Jackie, to contemplate coming together physically with us so we can really materialize what we're doing, and also materialize our team, right? So that and clear the roles, right? So when anybody asks us, we know clearly this is who we are, this is what we're bringing to the team, and this is why we have other people on the team, and it's not just me, And I felt really attacked when like Carrie was like questioning me in those emails. I'm like, dude, why are you like, what are you analyzing me for? This is a group project, So clearly there's like this connection of like we're our cohesiveness, right? We need coherence within us.
And I feel too, like a lot of our scales are also really big too. And so I feel like, event, as much as we want to do it, like, I think collectively we are bigger, and I think allowing us to see the bigger picture while the event could be part of it, like the event really triggered us to come together. And here we are saying like, this is more than an event. And I think we're like really coming to that realization, and that's where like the world's reflecting back on us. It's like, hey, like, you know, organize yourself even better so that like we make a big impact.
That is the most beautiful thing ever, Charlie. Because I think a lot in
Love
terms
silver
of
linings too.
yeah, I think all of life is alignment and friction, and there is an alignment, a shared alignment that brought us to this path, and we've had little bits of friction along the way that we talk through and we find alignment, and this is just another bit of friction in the process that we're sitting with. And the others, like the fact that we're experiencing friction means that we're in that space of innovation. Like we're in that space that like that's right where we're meant to be. It's not like, let's run away from this. It's, if we reframe it and it's, you know, we sit with this together rather than running away and being like, oh no, this is bad. The other side of this might like, right, we're just starting to talk about ideas of what the other side of this could look like. And would this have happened if we weren't experiencing this friction right now? We might have had a sick event, but now we're possibly creating the foundation for a whole network of sick events. And it's, and we're just, we'd laugh at ourselves when we look back on this if we think that this moment right now is just all alignment from here. We're going to have another bit of friction and more friction. And I think what's amazing is having these conversations just very candidly, like us being able to share, like, this sucks, this is how I'm feeling, is to shorten that friction alignment loop where we're not just mulling on our own being like, oh, this, I feel a lot of friction here. Like for us even just to be able to call it out loud and have a very, very rapid feedback loop. That's, I guess, how I view regeneration, is we have our feedback loops, have those so quick so that we can work through that friction together. And that's just part of the like.
Okay, and on that note, Adam, that friction note, I took a lot of notes the past day. An experiment we could do in the future, because I've felt this within myself, and I've experimented with this, that a lot of a lot of white people get triggered by me because I come with a lot of energy and the confidence, right? And so maybe some of these white landowners, maybe instead of me reaching out to them, maybe Adam or Mick or Jackie reaches out to them, because white people respond to white people better. I'm totally being racist, but I like, prove it to me otherwise. I notice over and over again that people respond better to like-minded, like-looking people. And I wish it wasn't that way. I wish, I'm not a big person off that. I believe in all of us, but I do recognize that, like, you know what? It happens. It's the freaking truth. I don't know what it's the weird power insecurity. Maybe Tizzle, you can share your experiences, but dang, white people, especially older white people, they get really scared around me. Like, I'm gonna take their shit.
It's my whole life. I'm 39 and it's been my entire life experience since I was a little girl. It's part of why I didn't go into GATE, because I could feel the way my teachers would respond when I would question them in the classroom, right? Like little Tizzle, like having teachers say things and then the teacher be like, who do you think you are? And it's like, I'm asking a question, like you're clearly threatened. And I didn't know it was like way back then, but then like maturing and now being an adult, and it's like, oh, this is why I went toe to toe with this principal who was this short little lady who just did not appreciate or like the connection I had with my students. So she wanted to press, and press me, because I will come with it. I will gather community. I will make you really think about yourself. And then when you try to come at me, I know I'm backed by the union. Like my last year of teaching before I left, teaching at Inglewood Unified School District, I was literally at war with my principal. And then fast forward, so I start working at Cal State Long Beach, and my supervisor at Cal State Long Beach, who looks just like Principal, I won't even say her name. And it's like the same thing. It's like the threat. I literally had an email sent earlier this semester, right? We're in June now, so around March, where I could not get a grant, a $300,000 grant that I know I would have been able to get because they were like, oh, we don't know, like we don't ethically feel right signing off on this thing that we don't have control over. Like they didn't like they straight up said that. But you don't want to acknowledge the students that I've rallied together, and this club that I've restarted that y'all didn't give anything about since 2007. You don't want to acknowledge the first art education show that art education has had since I was a student. But you don't. So I overstand. And when I was reading the message, and which is the reason why I responded the way I did, is because it was like I got so activated from it. And I'm so grateful you said it, because I knew that's exactly what it was. Because you come in with so much power, because you come in with so much vigor, because you come in with so much knowledge, because you come in with so much love, because you come in with so much light, and they don't have none of that. And so they just want to shit. They want to shit and
But
stifle and silence.
they own the land that they stole, that their ancestors stole, right? That's a thing, right? So I want to approach this with love. I know, Adam, we only got a couple more minutes. I do want to propose that experiment for us to lean into this uncomfortability, that like, hey, we're a team. And so I encourage Adam, Mick, Jackie, and anyone else who teams up with us like this, that we got to step up for each other in different ways. And I'll always have your back. I come from a culture that we got your back, even if you're my enemy, right? So I hope you guys lean into this, because you do have power. You don't know, it's this hidden, unspoken power, but it is power that when you reach out to these people, they'll respond to you differently. And I encourage you to check that out, to explore that, right?
I know my power. I speak white. But seriously, like, I mean, I think a lot of what I've, like, even in my own personal story, like, you know, coming from not a lot of money and getting this MBA and like global supply chain, blah, blah, blah. Like, I learned that I was like, oh, this is how rich people talk. This is how rich people do things. Like, I didn't know this before, and had my employer not paid for me to go to this program, I would have never known these things. And everybody around me doesn't know these things. So I think what I can really offer you guys is, I know how to write things for ESG initiatives, for DEI initiatives. Like, I know what the grants need to say. I know what the farm owner wants to hear. Like, and it may not, I guess, like, not my reservation with it, but why I'm saying this up front is I'm never trying to take anything someone's telling me that they want to do with their vision to give it to someone else to make it that. It's more like we just have to word it like this now. And once we get all the stuff, you just do whatever you want with the stuff. But I hope this makes sense and is like clear. I guess it's just like putting things in business terms, which are very like corporate anyway, but I speak dead people.
That's the phrase that was coming to me with, is meeting people where they're at. I guess I had an assumption that the people that we were connecting with on this were ready for your energy. Like, we're ready for your light and ready to, and yeah.
Adam, our energy, what we're doing is not even, there's nowhere to be seen. People, like, what we're doing, nobody's gotten there yet, right? They have whatever their blocks or limitation, the status quo. We're not status quo. You know, we're
and
radically.
That is the, I don't know if you guys have seen the documentary on WeWork, where when they had to file to the SEC, it was, Adam Newman and his wife, they have this grand vision of how this is changing the world. And then they have to submit who they are to the SEC. And usually it's a pretty bland, dry document that's like, you don't, there's no fluffy language in there. And when Adam Newman sees what they're going to put together, they're like, no. And they rewrite it, and it's grand, and it captures the heart of what they want to do. But then when the investors and Wall Street looks at it, they're like, what is this thing? And so that translation of knowing that kind of what gets you in the door is like a Trojan horse, that it's a whatever is needed to kind of meet where you're at to then expand the world of consciousness. It's I guess part of why with our high school program, it's called a social impact entrepreneur fellowship. But then most of the fellowship, we're talking about ripple effects, consciousness, and connection. And that's nowhere on our website. You discover that through our info session, but that's nowhere. And it's something that I really struggle with, because we have to update our whole website this week, is how do we have a website? How do we have something that's reflective of who we are, so that we sleep at night knowing that like our core essence is out there. But knowing that the people that find this can't just be the people that are currently speaking that language. Like, we have to help people, discover that language through us, knowing that that might not be the language they speak these days. But yeah, basically, I know this every single time we update our website, and I guess I'm just putting this out there too. And I wonder if there's a way, I hope there's a way, is that usually when we update our website, it's enough to help me sleep at night, but it doesn't feel whole. It doesn't feel like it captures the grandeur of the vision of what I know is possible, because it needs to meet people. It needs to translate to 3D, and we want to write in 5D. And I have come to terms with that. And that's why any website content writing process is really, it's a lot of friction for me, is because I want to put the 5D out there, but I know that we can only put out the 3D, and it's good enough. And I wonder if the things that we put out there need to be good enough, and then allow the people that say yes to good enough discover amazing in the process. And that's what's, yeah, it's but it's kind of an unfortunate reality of where we're at, is how I feel.
Very well said, Adam. Damn, we got so much wisdom here.
It makes me think of that quote, everyone's heard it. We're all just walking each other home. And, like, in a way, I'm involved with like government organizations, and I do that to keep myself to a little bit of a barrier of like what some of the most neediest people need, the government does provide. And especially in crypto and blockchain and Web3, if I can keep myself to those regulations now and stay concurrent with them, and it's a full-time, I never get to stop looking at what the SEC is thinking about crypto or NFTs, and I'm never going to for the next at least 10 15 years. It's gonna be an ongoing process of how that. So even like incorporating this in this program, like that's something I'm trying to prepare all of you for as well, and we'll get more into this as we go through DAO discussions. But don't think people aren't going to look and see what we're up to and want to know, especially in ag tech. And I think there's really intelligent, smart ways we can go about that. And that was even like a few sessions ago when I mentioned like, can we tie the astrology to storytelling that made sense for farmers? Because now there's this connection that it has historical value. It has, a basis that's beyond, well, we're just freaks that think, this is how we should all live, and, get to 5D with us. And also, Adam, when you said that, like, writing, we want to, publish 3D or publish 5D, whatever. Like, I think that's what I've been doing my whole life, is just being 5D and like outputting 3D and just being like, well, this is it. But now I feel like I'm with a bunch of 5D people. So like, blast off. Wormhole or whatever.
That's a good question to ask ourselves, like whatever we're putting out there, whether it's a flyer or a tweet or whatever. I don't know what the question is exactly right now. I'm actually searching for the question, and maybe we'll discover this question together, because part of the playbooks that we like, I don't want Onora to be Adam, like, and so what we're looking for is, if other people are creating things, what is the question that they can ask themselves to be like, this is is meeting people where they're at. This is translating enough. Because right now I'm putting on the lenses of, well, what would this person think? What would that person think? What would this person think? And I guess a question that comes to mind is, would the CEO of a Fortune 500 company like be on, like, be able to get this, be on board with this, and could a 5-year-old understand this? And but that's a type of question that I'm trying to find, is like, how could I empower someone that's not me to, and this will allow me to trust that wherever this goes, if you can look at whatever we're evaluating through this lens and you can give it a thumbs up, like, you don't need Adam to approve it, like, we're good to go.
I think I'll just play on that for a second, Adam. Like, one thing I've noticed too is like we know we need money, we need resources to make this happen. But if we focus on like bringing in the right partners, like meditating on that, knowing that the right people are going to show up, when you have the partner that you want to apply for the grant or get the funding or whatever, like you already feel comfortable with that relationship. You know that that's the person that you want to do this business with. So it's like Tizzle like counting money right now. So like thinking of your wording in like, how would you ask for this money? Like, what are you saying? You know, what is the agreement here? Like Indy was talking about earlier, you know, what's the agreement here that you're a co-creator with me too? Like this, you're beyond money. You're not just funding, you know, something that's going to give you a financial ROI, but you're also on board with like where we're going, which goes back to too, I think, and through this process, I think we'll get it, but on the flyer, even just having like, you know, our team, you know, our names, and just some things that validate us on that end of things too.
So before Adam, before you go, let's at least confirm this. Like, are y'all happy and excited, and does it feel good that we focus on June 25th? We, rather than doing like a morning to like maybe just the afternoon, June 25th, we just do a pop-up like in a public park in Los Angeles. Is that something we're all good with? Okay, pop-up play shops. We can do a play shop. I volunteer to do a laughter, neuroplasticity, fungi play shop. I'll throw that in there for all of us and whoever comes, and I'll invite all my friends and I'll invite all my contacts. In fact, I'm going to be moving away from LA and like I'm going to be heading to Maui in July. You guys don't know this, so I'm going to be working on a farm there more permanently. So I want to also say bye to a bunch of people, and this might be a wonderful opportunity to do that, and also to light up a park and maybe light up some children and some families in this process too. I'll bring my sound bowls and I have a bunch of paraphernalia. So we can, are you guys all good with that? Everybody's good? Any concerns or issues with that?
And if we do dinner the night before or lunch that day, I'm happy to lead in gratitude-based learning around food, just as we're connecting around that meal together. Happy to, yeah.
Heck yes. Thank you, Adam.
And I'll be coming in from Wednesday to Monday. So, I mean, during that time, anytime, let's definitely all hang out for sure.
Heck yes.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Yeah, let's make it happen.
And Saturday morning, Tree People is hosting Daybreaker, which is like a dance thing that's in the morning. Like it's like an ecstatic dancing club, but it starts at like in the morning, 9 to like 11 or 12 or something. So that could be something fun for us to do and meet like-minded people who might be folks who really want to support what we're doing. Tree People, Jackie, if you don't know, is one of the, like, I volunteered a bunch. I've taken a lot of my high school kids that I mentor there as well. They plant trees. They do a lot of like forest management all over LA. They're really proactive also in planting like junior trees to help with like more precipitation, anti-fire stuff, whatever. They're awesome.
That's awesome. And I'm going to try my best to get there, and maybe I'll put some NFTs up for sale and just ask some rich people if they want to support my life, and we'll see what I can pull off. And either way, I'm down, and we'll do all this.
You know, Jackie, your conversation earlier about the whole like crypto bros too, like I experienced that in the tech space, in the VR space, in the game space. I was like, no, like, you know, but no one else was around talking about anything else, right? So I think this is an opportunity for us. If this is like a market where we can at least make a difference, yeah, let's go in and say there's place for people who aren't crypto bros, who want to be in crypto, who are looking to fund whatever is the beginning of, you know, I mean, we talk about 5D world, so let's also like think about the things that we would need to support us, you know, in that space, because it's the crypto space allows us to, like, I'd love to think about how can we actually make products, something that is connecting to the kids, that then allows us to make some kind of residual income in the beginning, to allows us to create our own like things that we sell that supports the greater, because it's tough to always be like, like there's a place where we can be a teacher and help one-on-one and be there presence with them, but then there's a place also where we can give them something that they can work with later on and always remember, like, the connection of seeing us and then having that for whatever lives, however long they, appreciate that lesson. Like the cards is a great thing, and we could see what is it the teenage audience, really enjoys and likes. And then we can kind of really lean into that to maybe like, like t-shirts are a thing, right? Like maybe t-shirts with like really great messages of them affirming themselves, I am an Ursam, I'm very grounded, and the t-shirts maybe, like, I don't know, like, I feel like there's a space for us to support that. And then the NFT as well, like if we kind of all came together to find ways to, I mean, oils too, I'm sure we've got all kind of modalities of healing that we can gear it to the younger audience.
So this is unrelated to the event, but this is something too that came up. I didn't know this, but in the past couple weeks or months, I mean, literally everything in crypto regulation is being either rewritten or reviewed, or it's just a very tumultuous time. But I ended up finding out that the Phantom wallet and a couple other wallets, they are now deferring to the age of majority for whatever state. So in California, that's 18. So we can't give them wallets. We can't give them the Phantom wallet. So we have two options. I do know someone that builds wallets, so we could perhaps do that. But then we would literally be under scrutiny of having a wallet that we're giving assets to, blah, blah, blah. So I think maybe a better route, and this is something I would ask the entire team to think about, if we have a Cosmic Labyrinth wallet where no matter what the kids make, it gets minted through that wallet. So Cosmic Labyrinth owns it, not the kids, not Indy, not me, not one person, but that's like the DAO wallet, we'll say. How would those funds, if the kids are making those creations, we're minting the NFTs, and then there is some type of gain, how does that get funneled back to the kids indirectly? Because it directly cannot.
I mean, what if it was like a project-based things, right? Because we do projects, right? And maybe it's like community projects, but they're involved in it until maybe at a certain age where they can get that, but maybe they put into their own little like project DAO, right? That's bigger of the bigger project. And then, so it's like they're getting incubated in a business that's under 18. I mean, that's really where the whole idea behind education is, incubating self-startups. Where kids are taking their creativity and making sustainable income. But maybe we put in a project that then supports them getting free education from them. Maybe they're, hey, you guys did this, now go check out these really cool, because that's something that, Autumn was talking about, right? A Patreon. So like whatever they did, they have this, maybe we can gamify it so that we have a gamified space that records all this stuff. Then you have like the wallet that we create the translation, but the wallet is just really to fund classes. And so they probably get these classes by redeeming Dave and Buster tickets, right? To go to these courses, but we fund the teachers. So it sustains us through the money, but we have another layer where we create a platform that allow kids to create their own system.
Now, now something to be mindful of what is, or heartful of, is what we're doing also. And as I've been reaching out and sharing what, this summer SOILstice thing, some of the most excitement I'm getting from are facilitators and educators, right? So there's right now a missing piece. Like, people are making things for kids and people are making things for businesses. But what about the educators, right? Who's creating the space for educators to thrive? And there's only one cooperative in the world that's for teachers out there. There's only one decentralized, and it's out in England, it's out in Europe, right? So something for us to think about is there's really no space right now for teachers to thrive.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's a great point. I mean, in terms of like the ripple effects, kind of what Adam was talking about, like maybe the maximum ripple effects from what we're generating are actually coming from the teachers, teaching the teachers to share this knowledge in whatever way. And also giving tools for translation tools, as Adam was talking about, so it is a whole game of translation between dimensions and also, yeah, constantly. I mean, I've experienced this in so many different realms, like even with the Art Science Center, we're trying to translate between artists and scientists. And then we're dealing with like 5 more layers of difficulty here, in terms of translation, but also challenge. And it's really exciting too, because like you're basically, again, trying to find those, like, it's finding the enzymatic kind of relationship between like, oh, what is the thing that unlocks this knowledge or this understanding, even though it's actually essentially the same understanding, but the key is very different every time, right? So it's like it reminds me of a lot of like playing. I don't know if any of you guys ever played Myst when it first came out, but everything brings that back, like that sensation of unlocking all the secrets in the game,
Mick.
right?
I feel like the play shop, teachers of the future could be more like they're like self-contained groups of students that they take in, and they have like budgets, and that budget is really them managing a crypto budget key, and the team is the kids, and they have a stronger relationship because you kind of reward the kids with like these Dave and Buster tickets that they recognize as, oh, I want to learn more things about this, now I can go take out a library book because I have these coins or something, and that can create a whole new marketplace for these kids to support themselves and the project that they're doing. In a way, we then get to choose research. I mean, that's the new way of research is, having project owners like supporting what the kids want to really research, not the community saying what we should be researching, even though like who's picking what gets researched, right? So it's another way to really be able to support what we as kids and teachers want to actually research in real life. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot we can do with this.
I'm going to riff on this, and I hope it makes sense, because this is just everything's like, it's just really cool how things are. It's just really cool. So for context, when I said feedback loops and having really, really quick feedback loops, we have basically like Adam's classroom it's like a 4 to 6 week virtual, our fellowship is putting this theory into practice, and the students give feedback on like, we like this, we don't like this. And every single fellowship, we end up having like we find a friction point, and then we get it to put it into practice. And it's the discovery of gratitude-based learning and innovation, like that was because of the students. And so when I hear what you just described, Mick, this was something I wrote down a while ago, and it's just like in the back of the mind is you just kind of put out there that in terms of maximizing ripple effects, it's basically like, how do you tap into as many different teachers that they want to find a way to do this, and maybe they're thinking 5D, but they're working in a 3D environment. And how do we help teachers that want to find a way to transform their space from the inside out? And so it's essentially, what if it's teacher cohort? So we're doing a student fellowship. What if it is a teacher fellowship that is, we basically have, it is a 4 to 6 week pilot where we're creating community among the teachers, and the experiences around actually like it's rapid prototyping, where we're going into our community and practicing this with our students, inviting students into this feedback process of like, what do we love? Like, and just throwing it out there like, hey, look, our job is to help you come alive, and we want your input into this process. And now the teachers are almost like running their class like their own focus group, where it's an invitation for like, let's co-create this. And it's brought in as an experiment. And then the teachers come together to talk through that experiment. And then we just reassess. And kind of the format that we're doing this with Farmer's Footprint with our students is we have a 4-week pilot that follows the Cosmic Labyrinth journey, where at first you go in because you have to get to the heart. you go in and then you go out and then we assess. So it's like the first 2 weeks are actually all around this visioning, are going in, and then the last 2 weeks are around essentially having curiosity conversations, doing an activity with your people, whoever your people are, and perhaps the NFTs that can be created go toward this teacher DAO. And so then it's kind of a regenerative funding model for those teachers in their classrooms. And yeah. And so we are, rather than us trying to be like, we have this perfect way to do things and now just do this, we embrace the fact that like we have the version we have right now, and it is going to look so different in version 10. And we just want to create as many feedback loops as quickly as possible so we can prototype very quickly. And that evolution process is like, we're learning from the laws of nature. We're going to evolve so quickly by discovering that friction, that stress, right? That stress from our environment, and sit with that. And this happens very, very quickly, but it's like, essentially it's a DAO for teachers. And and to start this though, how do we empower Tizzle and Mick how do we empower Tizzle and Mick in their classrooms? And this is cohort number 1. And we come together in 2 weeks, right? We've gone in, now we're going out. Like, how do we, so that we come together in some weeks here for our first, and this is the model, is we have 4 weeks of, we call them just doers, 4 weeks of doers. Those are going in the field. And then we have advisors. And so 2 weeks after that pilot is done, we come together with everyone who's interested in this. We debrief and we talk around what would we need to evolve the next time. And then 2 weeks later, we start another field pilot. And so it's this, I'm talking really fast here, but I'm excited. You do like doers and advisors, and you do, and then 4-week doing pilot. So it's a 30-day pilot. You feel that sense.
You're not talking about Doers, that whiskey, are you? Because that's making my mouth thirsty.
No. And I'll just expand on what I mean by the doers and advisor thing here. Is with all these projects, I realize there's like 4 different, you can be all different ones, but like, what are the roles that excite you? And so you can kind of scale up or scale down depending on time. But you have advisors, advocates, connectors, and doers. So doers are the people that are going in the field, that are like, I have the time, I have the interest to go bring this into my community, bring this into my classroom. The advisors are the connectors are the ones that are, the connectors are the ones that are going to hold that space for people to do together. So that might be like a teacher, or that might be like us holding space for a group of teachers together. So like the connectors. The advocates are the people that maybe don't have the time or interest or to go hold the space or go in the field and do, but they're impassioned by this, and they want to help find other connectors. They want to help find doers. And so we make it really easy for them to spread the word and for this to be sticky. And the advisors are then the ones that are stoked about this in general. And they're like working on 10 different projects and they want to be part of this. They want to be part of creating this, feel a sense of ownership, but they don't want to or have the space to be committing 20 hours a month. They want to be able to dial in for 90 minutes, hear what's going on, share their ideas, and then just see how far we go in the next period of time. So yeah, that kind of model is one that we're experimenting with, and it just feels appropriate to share. What you shared, Mick, just kind of opened the doors, like, holy shit, are we building this? Are we basically empowering a network of teachers around the world who feel disenfranchised by the current constraints of teaching, to bring this to help them translate this in their sphere, and for us to discover that together, rather than being like, we have this one way to translate. So I'm going to stop talking, but I will say one thing. I posted that link about ripple effects because So when I was watching that Zach Bush article was the darkest time of my life. And what helped me get out of bed on days was literally knowing that everything I do is creating ripple effects. And I was like, if I get out of bed and I go out and literally like create one ripple effect, so my goal is I had to talk to one person, and I would go, and because what I wrote that article after was, if I bring light into one person's life, I've changed the world. And so that was what I had to do every day, was I had to get out of bed and go walk around Boston and have one conversation with somebody. And all it was how can I create a positive ripple effect? And like, how can I help them feel more light in their life? And that was changing the world. And then that article is kind of the, what came of it. But yeah, so that's why I posted that in there. It was also felt timely.
I love that, Adam. Sorry, super quick. And Adam, like,
No sari unless you're wearing a sari.
well, I saw Mick jump in and he's barely talked, so I feel bad overshadowing him. But like,
you don't know, Jackie. He's been telepathically talking, and it's been so annoying. It's like, Mick, shut up, dude, please.
That's where these words are coming from. But Adam, you know, like, I've just really met you over the last couple weeks, and like, I love how much experience you have from like actually doing this with like classrooms and like org behavior type stuff, because honestly, when forming a DAO, that's really the most important like aspect that somebody have, is like really strong org behavior skills. And something else we can think about too with the DAO is that we're going to be on like a path of progressive decentralization. So things will start really centralized with us and like laying the rails down for like a sturdy foundation. But in that, you want to start thinking what will get automated. So we're doing the tasks at first, we're doing all this stuff, but we're also planning for this tasks to be automated. And one thing I would encourage you guys, because I'm not a teacher, but I know so many people in the, you know, trained teaching educational space that have a lot of like caretaking needs, like the emotional component of like handling kids and teenagers and like all the other stuff that goes along. So if we think of a DAO as like a union, like what else, like if healthcare's failed teachers up until this point, what could a DAO provide them? You know, this strength in numbers, being a part of this DAO. Because I even started thinking about like this kids like in an earn to serve model. You know, like even encouraging the kids that like part of what you're going to make or you get back goes back to your teacher getting a massage session or like a Reiki session, or, you know, something that takes care of them. Just so that even your students are recognizing that, like, you know, it's very kind that these people come and teach us anything at all. But yeah, just thinking those things out loud.
I do get a lot of teachers that come on Saturdays at acupuncture, and it's usually like you can tell what week they've had, depending. We actually ask what's your stress level, and they'll be like, oh, it's been a tough week, and talk about the kids, but like there's a stress level, and we would definitely help with that. So yeah, I think it's important. Like with education, what's great is we can cover any topic, right? So we are also self-sustaining. Whatever we need, we just bring in people who know how to do it, share it, and then people who want to learn it, and eventually we'll just build something that supports that. So if it's medicine, then being able to have people who are in that space be able to help with that. And also the idea of like teachers, right? I think like teachers could be anyone who has expertise or knowledge. So, you know, Jackie, you are a teacher because you have knowledge that all of us don't. And so in that being able to share with that, we would kind of return the favor because you're sharing, you know. And I think we're caught up in this like, oh, you know, Shark Tank mentalities. I think what I've been really fighting for is it's Dolphin Pod, now Shark Tank. The problem is we all like bite each other as we're like going to the top or whatever the top is. And so I think even just learning like what is a Dolphin Pod, which is everybody's got a place. And so what Adam was saying actually is interesting because it's the 4 elements, and we put it in the chat too. But you know, that connective is a very strong suit of people who are like water signs, because that's what they pay attention in, and that's very much how the intuition activates, is how people are feeling. So they are way connected in like communities, and understand what the community's needs are, versus the one who can speak. Those are usually like either fire or air signs, are really good like speaking and telling people, hey, let's do this, and people get excited about it. So so I'm really excited to be able to do like a fun play shop with all of us to like really see how the elements are as a personal thing, but then how we could actually support or start to challenge or whatever, depending on how all of us are together. Because that's like, I guess, the idea of a template to create a synergy in like new dolphin pods that happen with the kids and teacher kind of relationships.
Yeah, and I shared this thing with you guys. I actually listened to a podcast with the founder of this, sorry. And really fantastic what they're doing to support teachers and how they're including teachers in the ownership model, and even investors that are coming in. The investors only have one vote. It doesn't matter how much money they invest, right? So everybody it's very democratic. It's a co-op that's run by teachers and owned by teachers, and you could see kind of like what's allowing them to grow. And like they're the only like online educational platform where like there's not a bunch of money being siphoned off going to like the management, right? Like it's like fantastic. And it's crazy to think how many platforms there are that like literally like give only small fraction to the teachers. And that's actually most of the models out there, right? Even when you talk about like the meditation ones or whatever, then they're all like pretty extractive. And so this is kind of cool to see that it's doing well. I mean, they're like having the teachers decide what the teacher benefits are and to vote on that. And so you can see it's already happening, but this is in Europe mainly. And so but the guy's from America, and he went to Europe and started doing this because they're a little bit more ahead of us doing co-ops, right? Europe is a lot more like they're a lot more knowledgeable about it. That's a more effective union system than having a union system, because the unions keep getting corrupted themselves too, right? So something for us to think about is what we're doing is solving a problem as well for educators that are out of the box, right?
It's like 1%. There's 1% for the planet, and this I want this to be used in so many different ways. The model is already coming up for how businesses could connect with students, and it's called 1% for the community. But this is for the NFTs. What if 1% go? I don't really know where I'm going with this, but like 1% going to the community, or 1%, or 1% going to the community in general. And if there's 1% for the community, and see what that sparks.
I mean, DAO systems all have like these kind of cool project-based ideas that people can vote on, right? Once they're a part of the DAO, and people already understand that stuff. But it'd be great to get kids and young people and teachers thinking that way. Like, hey, what projects is near me? What do I want to put add some oomph into or upvote, right?
Could Mixed Classroom or could Tizzle's Classroom function like a DAO? Because this is the model that we're exploring. Is we have a company, and this is what's happening. We have a company that wants to improve their environmental impact, and we've shared the gratitude-based improvement model that we use with the high school, which involves essentially like crowdsourcing within your school and then crowdsourcing with your community. And they're like, that sounds awesome. They like looked at our proposal. They're like, that sounds awesome, but it sounds like a lot of work. And we came up with the idea together of, well, what if we were able to essentially like teach the students to be gratitude-based researchers, and the students can get connected with that company, learn about who this company is, and then they're able to now get more connected to their community and do this research project. And that school that gets paid. Honora helped, like we are kind of training them, and so our portion comes from just part of that. But that company is taking 1% of their dollars and investing it in innovation, and that's going toward, call it that school of students that's doing that research project. And then that sustainability club at the school, if at the end of the year they're like, we want to do solar panels, we want to do compost, rather than applying to their school or to their district for money, they actually have an income source that they can choose where that money goes. But that's all concept right now. But it's essentially like there is an income source that's coming to that school that the club though then says this is how we're going to distribute those funds. But it's, so yeah, I guess it's a question for us is, as Nick, as Tizzle is bringing this into their classrooms, the part of getting more connected to our community, part of learning is we're finding ways to innovate and evolve and improve, which at the end of the day usually ends up with we're asking for money for something. We're asking for resources for something. And whether they're the NFTs or whether the project-based learning is funded by, like, those are projects that are done for others. It's almost like, can we create a mini DAO for Mix Classroom? Or is it even just, does it need to be a DAO itself? Or can it just be, yeah, I don't know, just throwing it out there of,
And when
DAO
when
within
you
a DAO.
and when you talk about bringing it into classrooms too, there also is a limitation of like the dynamics of like the politics, right? Like Mick can't teach. I mean, I know this with me too. I can't go to my classrooms that I'm teaching right now and be like, oh, Cosmic Labyrinth, blah, 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 I want you to sign up. I can't do that. It's a conflict. I'll get in trouble. I'll get fired, right? So we want to mitigate that as much as possible.
But here is not a part here. So take Onora, for example. We have a carbon footprint calculator. If we're going to translate it to the 3D, we have a carbon footprint calculator, which we are trying to evolve into more or less like a consciousness tool where we're learning about how connected we are to all aspects of life. But we have a classroom activity that is literally watch a 60-second video about the ripple effects of a tree, have a conversation about ripple effects, then take this assessment to calculate your impact and have a conversation. You've created an account without creating an Onora account. It's not, we're not doing this thing for Onora. We're doing an activity in our classroom around Earth Day or around Climate Week. And you just so happen to we're now using the platform is now just the learning tool. So it doesn't need to be a Cosmic Labyrinth thing, if that makes sense. It's just the tools that we're using can just be beneficial. Like it's an activity that we're doing in the classroom.
I just wanted to jump in and say that Indy's completely right regarding the restrictions we have within classrooms. Even though I'm at a collegiate level, I've had my hands slapped for so many things. And this is part of why I like to do a lot of things rogue or under the radar, because it's like, don't tell me what I can and can't do, because what I'm doing, the students want to do, but as soon as I go to administration, it's like, no, it gets shut down. However, I am the lead advisor of the Art Education Progression Club. Crystal and Ariana, two students, Crystal's the president and Ariana is the secretary. They're already a part of it. When I spoke to Ariana after she was in that first meeting, she was like, Tizzle, because I was still in class at Aero learning how to open my own alternative school when I first started at Cal State Long Beach. So it was in conversation every week because I was communing with people all over the world who were wanting to make their own learning centers, etc. So then when Ariana came into this class or to the Zoom, she was like, I didn't really think like it could be possible to have these 7 other people who are like you, Tizzle. Like, I didn't even know that it was what? Her mind was blown. And she was like, I had so many ideas after we got out of that call. So my point in sharing that is and she's not even 21 yet. So she's at Cal State Long Beach and she's thirsty for this type of opportunity because her mom is an educator and she's at a school. So she's already teaching and she already sees the drain. She's already feeling the drain. And so the feedback that I got because of my rogue guerrilla style of education and like flipping the script on things, I could totally do this in an Art Education Progression Club because we have meetings we have to have every 2 weeks or whatever we decided in our constitution and bylaws. But the club will be up and running. Like I'm waiting for their approval, like the official approval from the admin, even though the guy who's been doing our paperwork was like, you're going to get approved. I just have to give it to my superior, right? Because there's all these gatekeepers everywhere. But what Adam is talking about feels very possible because all of these future art educators, they're tired of how the system currently is. And I believe them having access to this tool, this DAO, where they're going to see like, whoa, I can be a teacher and I can benefit from X, Y, and Z if we set this up. Like, I mean, not saying the school is the same thing, but they want something innovative because they're tired of what is in existence right now. They want something different. They just don't know how. And if I could bring something to this club, which we have 40 something members now, and the semester hasn't even started. We haven't even done week of welcome where we're recruiting people. Because one of the things that I had thought of for the Art Education Progression Club was like, our first event is going to be with the Cosmic Labyrinth. So we're going to have all these photos, we're going to have all these events. So when we get to school, people will be able to see like, whoa, look at these amazing things that this Art Education Club is doing that we haven't even learned about or thought about in the education system, because that's not what's taught. That's not what is a part of the curriculum and the Cal State, even though Cal State Long Beach is the largest art education program in the state of California, right? We're not really teaching things that are student inclusive, are student led, but that's what they want to do, because that's why they got into teaching in the first place, because they want to make a change. So,
and that's also something to think as you're explaining that, Ilea, I'm also thinking, right, like in being truly capitalistic, right, we have to think about like, do the best teachers get honored for being the best teachers? And wouldn't it be great if the students got to choose? They were like, oh my God, I want to, and when 10 of them they select through our platform, they select Tizzle to teach the class, then Tizzle gets awarded those NFTs or that cryptocurrency or whatever. So we can start to create an ecosystem that's running alongside the current one, right? Without like being against it or anti anything. It's just like, oh, we're building a marketplace that is like a competitive for teachers.
It sounds like a nicer version of Rate My Teacher, which is, if you've never gone to Rate My Teacher, like I ventured down Rate My Teacher for some of my colleagues, and the students don't hold back in any way. They spit truth bombs left and right.
But rate your teacher is like, it's like diminutive. It's deficit framing, and like what if we created
anything, right?
Right. It's negative. It's negative, not uplifting. Yeah.
Exactly. So my point in just sharing Rate My Teachers is that students use that site even though it doesn't do anything, but they go on it because they know, well, I know my other students, my peers will read it. So they're incentivized by nothing. Just the fact that I know someone else who will have this teacher will read this. So if they get to do something where there is something that they can gain from it, or someone can actually benefit from it, I believe they're going to do it even more so.
So Jackie, so when we're saying that we can't give the money to the kids, we can give money to a teacher. And mind you, like some of the people who have like reached out to me wanting to like teach or volunteer at our SOILstice, they're not like trained teachers. But like, you don't need to be a trained teacher to be a good teacher. You know, like I'm kind of getting annoyed that like you're only considered a teacher if you went to school to be a teacher, but you get indoctrinated. Only once in a while you get a Mick or a Tizzle or myself where like you've gone through the thing and you can still retain your sovereignty, right? Most everybody gets brainwashed through the process. So
well, I'm technically not even a teacher. I'm a studio coordinator. So I coordinate workshops and work with all the other teachers. So I don't even really have my own classes, right? So it'd be like more like introducing these ideas to other teachers, you know, and in like kind of sporadic workshops and things throughout the school. But yeah. No, I agree with what you're saying, Indy. It's like, why do these, I mean, that happens in every single field, right? Like the kind of certification programs and everything. It's just like, they're a lot of times it's just based on whether you can pay for it or not, you know? It's like, and not what credentials you have.
That's the whole MO. Like, I feel like I'm being, a rogue in this program, because what do I preach all the time in my class? Hey, there's other places and ways to teach besides getting your credential. Let me show you how to do it. Even though I'm teaching in the credential program, because I know it's poppycock, like straight up. It's like tomfoolery, all the things. So I'm literally in my classroom teaching students there are other ways you can make a difference. There are other ways you can access communities where you don't have to spend $20,000+ to get a credential that you might not even get to really use, because how much longer our school system's really gonna last? And be prepared because of how things are shifting.
So mind you, just throwing this out there too for our group, like once again, I encourage us also to envision bigger things for ourselves and the community. And Shamat, I don't know his last name, Shamat, whatever. He's like really big, was part of Facebook, one of the first investors or whatever. I heard him on a podcast with Andrew Yang a couple of years ago, and he like said very clearly, he's like, if anybody can create an NBA or like some sort of marketplace where teachers are treated like the way we treat athletes, like how athletes can earn more money if they are better at being athletes. If we can do that for teachers, that's going to be a multi-billion-dollar business. So just throwing that out there, nobody has done that yet, you know?
We are doing that. We are doing that, Indy. I just threw it in the chat. So with Farmers Footprint, we have this very specific pilot, which is around crowdsourcing. But we gave a very, very fancy title. We have to give things very fancy titles, that we called it the Global Innovation Project, which is essentially, it's a distributed knowledge sharing network. So what happens if you have people that want to improve food, people that want to improve energy, all these different systems, the way that you actually go in your community and learn what people love and appreciate about the way things are today, what people hope for the future, and we're sharing that. So if you're a college, a high school, a company, a town, we all have those same infrastructure systems, how we share together. What we're talking about here is the same thing for education. And so how are we empowering teachers who want to bring about a more conscious education system, a more heart-centered, meet people where they're at, watering seeds rather than empty buckets to be filled? How do we help those that want to bring that to this wherever they're at right now, rather than tear down the whole school district? How do we meet it where it's at? What we're offering is a way to go where you're at right now, test this out. You don't have to raise your hand and tell the whole world, oh, I'm doing this big crazy thing. You can quietly prototype and have this trusted community throughout the world. Right now we have Tizzle and Mick. That would be the first. These are the pioneers that would, as the kind of the start of a distributed knowledge sharing network. And so now, and this is where I think the blockchain piece comes into play, is if today, whether it's lesson plans, whether it's the way that we start a club, whether it's whatever is that those playbooks that these version 1.0 playbooks, whoever uses those, we're now able to see, all right, X, Y, and Z are using these playbooks, you're downloading them, and Mick, Tizzle, they're now getting cred. But there's now incentive for Mick to continue to innovate and to continue to improve on that, to make sure that what they're doing is getting used even more widely, and it's giving incentive to, it's kind of like, it's conscious capitalism, if I put it out that way. It's the way that capitalism was supposed to work, which is, it's why there's a ton of tax rebates now you get write-offs if you invest in R&D. But somewhere along the way, we stopped investing in R&D, investing in our people. And it was like, let's just hold on to as much as possible. We're creating an incentive to continue to pilot and continue to prototype and do that really quickly and innovate super quickly. And I think we're creating that right now.
And I feel like it's also going to open up a space where students can barter their services. Because like one of the things I did, like I had a salsa teacher out here that I love, right? But like with the student wage, I couldn't go. So I actually told him, hey, you don't have a website. No one knows when your classes are. Can I just build your website? So we traded that, and he was getting more people, and had like a social media space, right? And so like if I was a student, we could easily say, hey, I can do that for you, to support the teacher, because the teacher suddenly gets, because my goal was trying to get more people to go to his classes, right? And that is like, if we support, even like teachers get supported by the community that way, you know, it makes their life even better, where they get to focus on what they're good at.
I'll just jump in here just from some of the things I'm hearing and just to shine light on what a DAO can do and what it won't do or can't do or whatever. I think what I'm hearing from all of you the most, like the overarching theme seems to be like, what do teachers do? Like how can they be supported? And at the end of the day, how is teaching supposed to be a regenerative process? One thing I would be interested in hearing is like elder teachers, or people that you guys respect in the field that can bring knowledge of, like, 50 years ago I had this type of relationship with a student, or 40 years ago or 30 years ago. And now where the DAO comes in is, and Tizzle, I'm hearing a lot of this from you, is that there's this middle layer of bureaucracy that is so nuanced and so time consuming. That's what a DAO can cut out. A DAO can cut out that middleman. But what you'll find is 70% of the people that say they don't want a middleman actually can't lead and actually don't have the tools to do anything on their own. So they'll actually revert and actually double down on needing someone else to do that for them, because now they've been proven they can't do it themselves. So they're going to yearn back for that comfort system or whatever, blaming it on the union or blaming it on, this one or that one. So just as educators, that's something I think we could prepare teachers for, is we're going to take this middle layer away. You're going to leashes off. You get to do this. Now, like some of the stuff, Charlie, you were touching on, and where I think this elder thing comes in is, how do you be such a good teacher that your students actually want to do that graphic design work for you? They want to mix that video for you. They want to, help out in this way, fill these holes or these gaps. And maybe if it's even something where the reward system isn't necessarily known up front. Like nobody says to the students, hey, we're going to reward you every time you do this thing, that thing, da, 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 da. But maybe it's just up to the teacher's discretion to say, Greg really, pulled in this week, and maybe it's something they do quarterly or something like that. But I think just resounding what I'm hearing, and maybe it can help us have a focal point for the DAO, because you're all right. You can have a classroom DAO, you can have sub DAOs, you can have a core DAO, but maybe over the next week or two, we can all think about, like, what is that core DAO? What are we really, who is the group we're starting with to really empower first? And then what are the ripple effects from that we can start planning for, setting the rails up for?
And on that note, Jackie, would you be awesome and like set up like a shared Google Doc for all of us, and then that just like can become the template for the DAO, and maybe we can like maybe you can like take something that already exists and we can start to delete and fill in. And mind you, I also want to put that in Jackie asking that question. It seems really clear to me that this first starts with all of us. Like, why are we showing up? Like, how is this filling our cup? How can it more fill our cup? I mean, we're the case study. Like, I was like, oh, we're like trying to case study with students, and like, wait a second, we have a case study with ourselves, and so we are the case study first.
Jackie, what you brought up around like, what do teachers do? What came into my space is we need to go collect some data. And so what actually came about was, so what we're doing with Farmers Footprint is citizens are connecting with their favorite restaurants, their favorite stakeholders in their food system, and it's crowdsourcing, like, what do we love? And it's sharing those best practices. What came up hearing you describe this was, what if it's students connecting with other students to kind of crowdsource, like, what do we love? Or if teachers connecting with other teachers, essentially like a 30-day research project of what do we like, what lights us up? And it's all under this premise of, we're trying to create the future. We're, call it improving our future together, improving education together. And it's, we're we're building our community of advisors and advocates while we're inviting people into being doers. And we are the ones that are the connectors right now, that are holding that space and sharing kind of this vision of here's what we're creating. I'll send to the group what we put out to Farmers Footprint, because we put out this vision around improving our food system. And what we're talking about is improving our education system. And it's similarly painting this vision of here's the future that we have, here is what is inspiring us about this, and here's a concrete project that here's a concrete project that we can use to move us forward. And I'll just share. Yeah, Emma, by the way, Emma Chow. So you and Emma did an interview. So Emma is
Emma joined us. She actually emailed me today saying she wanted to join us today, but she's traveling, but she still is wanting to tune in with us and stay connected.
Yeah. So Emma is, so when my friend Wyatt said, what would happen if you led with love instead of fear? It was this darkest period of my life where Wyatt then said, go write for 3 pages. And Emma introduced breathing and meditation to me. And it's, this is all just like, she's the one that started to get food into this. And it's, well, I'm going to bring it up since it's, yeah, Emma taught me this, and I've actually been sharing this everywhere I can now, when the topic of like, do we matter? Are we making a difference comes up? Because Emma actually taught this to all of our kids. Because with our fellowship, we have our program, and then afterward you join our advisory committee. And so Emma came and spoke to the kids on our first advisory committee and shared her story. And she taught us breath work, and she taught us a box breathing technique. But I've since used that as like a way to realize like that we matter more than we realize. Is when we're breathing, we're actually getting out of that fight or flight mode and helping us get out of the, oh my God, like I'm in survival instinct. And that will help us lead with love rather than fear. If we're in that fear mode, we're just trying to survive. We can't see with a broader vision. And what's amazing when this happens, though, when we're breathing, and this was something that Zach Bush introduced into my space, which is carbon is the building block of life. Like we're based in carbon. And so just by us breathing, we're putting carbon into the life cycle. And as we're restoring ecosystems, that carbon is going into soil, it's going into trees. And so just when you open your eyes and literally take that first breath, you're literally creating more life on the planet. You're taking the building block of life, and that is going into soil, the trees, that's creating more oxygen on the planet, that's creating more food for microorganisms. And we're literally changing the world just by breathing. Exactly. And your fart too, Indy. But then that has nothing to do with what you've chosen to do while you're alive. So not every single person you talk to, every single thing you say, everything you do, that's also creating ripple effects. And like we get to choose what we're like, how else we're changing the world. And it's pretty, so Emma was the one that introduced that into my space. And it was just, I don't know, a lot of the conversation of like, do we matter? Are we making a difference? Like, why are we here? We're just by breathing, we're changing the world. And so I know this is being recorded, and I don't care. I'm like, it's going to come out in some way. We're going to create this. So on some podcasts, I haven't been able to find it since, but Zach Bush was talking with Aubrey Marcus. It was on one of theirs, where at the very end, Zach was asked like, so what are you working on these days? And he talked about a life-backed currency, how our current currency is like the dollar is backed by death. Basically, it was started by life insurance. And so that's kind of the origin story of our dollar. And I was like, huh, that's fascinating, like life-backed currency. And I realized that I'd been selling carbon offsets, carbon credits, and we were trying to evolve from what we were funding. and have been kind of tinkering with, well, what if the Onora token, what if the token that we're putting out is each one of those tokens is actually a ton of carbon, which is literally a ton of life. That if carbon is life, how are we how are we, by the money that we're giving, by what we're creating, the way that we earn these tokens, the way is literally through a regenerative process, through breathing more life into the world. And what's pretty crazy is that the numerology in Judaism, 18 is chai, which is 18 is life. And so for whatever reason, it felt fitting to fix the price of carbon. Like we've internally fixed the price of carbon on our platform as $18, which is life. And it's cool to think about that this whole, because of where we send the money now, it's all the projects are restoring degraded ecosystems, but we're measuring the amount of carbon. You can measure a million things, but carbon is one of the things we measure. And so this whole concept of the way this whole experience, whether it's NFTs, tokens, this whole experience we're talking about is, how is this breathing more life into ourselves? How is this breathing more life into our community and creating more life, creating more vibrancy because of what we're doing? And we're creating it's a life. Whether it's we're able through smart contracts able to measure the amount of life, the amount of ripple effects we're creating, but there is something there too. We're literally creating more life by what we're doing. And it's, I don't know what it actually comes to that we're building, but it's the building blocks are there.
The AI is already building it, dude. By the way, I just want to throw in there too, just letting you guys know that we today outdid the AI. Like we went so deep, and we've gone so deep that the AI had to leave. I'm just letting you know that we did something. I don't know what we did, but the AI has left the building in this conversation. Just putting it there.
It's always listening.
Cannot compute.
No, I'm serious. Jennifer's AI, the one that stays on, it's like it bounced.
Now the real talk starts.
So we can dive deeper into a lot of different directions, but I do want to respect y'all's time. I know Sarissa's here. Sarissa, you popped in. I mean, I know you didn't catch everything we're talking about, but we've been going through some more like conflict, flow, resolution, all that kind of jazzy stuff. And just kind of also coming to terms that like maybe we need to come together and do something more regenerative for ourselves. And then get more clear on the DAO, the agreements, what is our cooperative project? What is it for us, and creating clarity within us before we start actually going out into the world any further. And do you have anything to say or any experiences you've had that can bring light to this? You're muted.
Hello again. I was just tuning in there and picked up on, what some of you were saying, the gist of it. And I think that it's always a smart idea. It's like from past experiences and projects to get ourselves together really solid so that when we do run it, it's smooth. Obviously, I mean, I was sad not to be there, but I was like happy and pumping it up for you guys. But when things don't align, I always find it's best not to force it and to take it as a sign to just come together and solidify it. So you're already on that and doing it. So I think that would be great. And yeah, I'm here to help out and contribute any way that I can. Sorry for being a little late. I had to drive to the airport at 1 a.m. randomly to help someone. So I got back really late and I passed out. So I'm happy I caught the end of it. Yeah, I'm happy I caught the end of it. And I'm assuming in the beginning I saw the thread, the email. So yeah, do you guys have a plan or a direction as to when you would like to get together? Is that something that has been discussed yet, or no?
So Charlie has his ticket to come at the end of this month, no matter what. So
Okay.
what we were contemplating to do is doing a pop-up on Saturday, the 25th, just a pop-up at a public park.
Right.
And just, you know, for us just to get together, and I'll do a laughter, and Mick and Tizzle and whoever, we can all do our things for each other and invite family and friends and other people just to come together. And people walking around strangers, we'll invite them in as well if they want to join. And from that too, outside of that, before and after, we can meet, you know, the days before and after to really solidify what we're doing. In the next 2 weeks though, we do want to digitally start to create a DAO. And in that DAO, the DAO is like a constitution, right? And Jackie, am I saying that correctly?
Yes. You basically kind of organize it like a nation state. That's like the best way to approach it, thinking of. And yeah, the Constitution's
Right.
first.
Right. Yeah, I've been doing that with a different project called Taste of Puna. It's like a community marketplace here. So we created a PMA. So we're creating the whole constitution, all the laws basically. So yes, that seems to be the theme of overall projects right now. So maybe this is a whole microcosm thing happening of if you're going to create new structures, really, really get the backbone solidified, the spine of it. So yeah, like I said, I'm here for it. I am in Hawaii, and I know that, it's a little bit harder in the moment to get there, but I'm here, digitally. If we lock in some meetings, I'm so happy to flesh stuff out with you guys. So yeah, here, and we can communicate with that.
And any learning stuff that you, as you're doing the process there with Bruna, what are you learning? What are that would be helpful too.
Yeah, I mean, I can even, I can forward things to you. We got a PMA from a gentleman, Adam, in Pennsylvania, who's been doing it. And so he studies international law. And so, yeah, he's been creating that. So there's a lot of constitution stuff he went over. Some of the older folks who were wanted to contribute or go into the lease with us that we're looking at, they were kind of freaked out by a lot of this stuff. But I think us knowing that it's time to make that change and not leading with fear, as you guys were talking about, that's really kind of how you have to focus on it. It's not about the institutions or what we know has existed. It's about what we want to create. So I think that's just super important. So I'll look over the files that we have, and what I feel might resonate, I'll forward it to the group. If it might be helpful at all. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarissa. So how do you guys feel? Do we feel good? Anything else that we want to share, or anything else that's missing, or do we know what we're doing?
I feel a yearning to, when we meet next, to talk about what Sarissa brought up, is let's start that, let's share best practices between now and then, and share what's come into our space of different ways. And then let's get together and start that process of the who are we, the what are, that feels I feel like an urge to run toward that. Because then the week after we'll get to meet in person, and time will fly by. So we'll get to meet in person, and the play shops that were already written up, can just flow. And there's stuff that you guys have done before. And so it's kind of just us getting to meet in person and vibe, and it feels very flowing. I don't know. I don't feel a lot of friction right now, but that's just me.
Yeah. I also met some more lovely people I got deeper connection with when I flew back from Oahu yesterday. And so, but yeah, it's just about teaching and play shops. So I ran into some people who were really interested in that. And she works with fire. So she would definitely probably be more fire element. But just point being, having something here in Hawaii, it's already a place that's leans towards that. There's so many homeschooling already happening. So it's not something that you're gonna have to pull someone's leg. And and yeah, so I began last week talking with more places and just weekly, like having my own classes start up again, which is really nice because I've been traveling so much that I haven't had like a set schedule. So yeah, so I look forward to that and really holding that seed here to eventually have you guys come out here. I think that would be really lovely. And we can do something for ourselves too, you know, the first few days, like rounding in with each other, and then opening the doors up to having the kids and the parents come in. And the more I talk to people, the more I think having stuff for the parents as well is really awesome, because they're all searching for something right now too with their kids. So just throwing that out there.
Sarissa, I just want to say it's really nice. I feel like you were like this godsend moment, because one thing I always fear doing a DAO, like on any project, is like sometimes a lot of teams think like because the DAO tech person is there that like they're going to tell you everything to do. Like I can tell you how the tech will work, but like actually coming up with like the old systems. And you mentioned like international law, and that's like something I would very, you know, I can understand maybe all of us aren't familiar with that, but that is something we should think about when we're structuring something, because this is borderless technology. It is something that we want to future proof to a degree. So there's these huge concepts that I'm definitely not an expert in, you know, that are just overarching theories we're all going to have to like come together on and like make decisions for. The one thing I can tell you that I can definitely bring is choosing, like helping guide us choose a blockchain that is sustainable, makes sense with like energy initiatives, has a strong community that's in alignment with what we're doing. So like that in and of itself is kind of like a job there. But that doesn't hold us back from any of the stuff we have to do anyway as just any organization. So I love all the stuff you were bringing in.
Yeah, and you know, I've worked in places that were like crowdfunded, that were, you know, we're membership associations. So it's really, I'm just opening the door even further, and it's like, whoa, you know, it's amazing, and I'm looking forward to it. I have to, because of the Taste of Puna for the board, I have to be taking these PMA classes with Adam. So we only had one so far, but we did tape it. We audio recorded it. So I think I have it in a Google Doc. I shared it. So I'll share it with you guys if you feel called. You don't have to listen to all of it, but the PMA classes is where he's breaking down the clauses that he has wrote for us, so that we understand, because if something ever happens, we need to be able to back ourselves. So it's just like insightful information. But yeah, like we're required to take the classes so that if anything happens, we are knowledgeable about it. So I'm happy to share as I go along. They're weekly classes, so it's 1 week. Yeah. It's happening.
Anyone
Sarissa,
else?
I'm gonna look this up real quick, and it might be someone. I need to figure out what island they're on. But they're on one of the islands. So small world. One of the projects in our life creation portfolio is this group called the Ocean Foundation, and they have a seagrass restoration project. And anyway, so in I'm in a part-time MBA program, and one of the guys in my class, we connected, and he happens to be the CEO of this like professional sailing team, this professional racing team, Mark Towell. I don't know if anyone, and it turns out that the sponsor for his team is the same sponsor for our project in Puerto Rico through the Ocean Foundation. Anyway,
cool.
we get to talking, and turns out, because we started talking about gratitude-based improvement stuff, and he shared that they created a sustainability toolbox, like a playbook that is getting used by like 200 organizations right now, because they kind of went through their own process of how do they make their professional sailing team as sustainable as possible. And they created this toolbox. And so he sent me this link, and I'm trying to look at it and looking at like, how do we apply this to starting essentially sustainability clubs, how we create playbooks, because we've already done it and we're just trying to formalize our playbook and put a gratitude-based improvement model on this. So rather than looking for problems everywhere, how do we apply that? Anyway, when I took a quick look at their program, there's a whole piece on forming a team, like a whole piece on bylaws and stuff. And so I'm going to definitely be digging into this more. And this is all open source though. And so I want to be very mindful of the contributing to the open sourcing of it rather than a take and try to, you know, if that makes sense, like want to contribute to the open sourcing of this. But yeah, just putting that out there, because also I don't know where he is, but Mark is in one of the islands, Sarissa, so he's a really cool person. But this content could be helpful for us.
Yeah, I love that. And honestly, as the programs start to develop more and more, I mean, what better way, like if you're gonna talk about the water element, what better way I'd like to teach them between the relationship of water and wind. So I can't speak on that. It's not like it's my mastery skill over here, but I mean, we are in Hawaii. And so I think that that's something plausible that can even take kids from island to island. You know, that's a possibility. So future things.
On the 30th of July, 1967, a group
I can hear something in the background there, Sarissa. Anybody else feeling like you need to complete?
I just want to make sure if I'm still inviting the students to come on the 25th.
Yes.
But
Yes.
also letting them know that like there may be children there may be adults there, but there may not be, right?
I'm gonna be a freaking kid.
Yeah, they're gonna be the children.
Okay, bet. That's all I wanted to confirm. And the other thing is
Wait, hold on, Tizzle, to answer that question more clearly, everybody who I've invited, all the mothers, because I've sent the invite to a bunch of friends of mine who are mothers and have kids, and they would totally be down. When they email back, when they register, I'm just gonna have them come to where we are at.
okay.
So I'm still
Perfect.
doing that because it's still important to me, you know?
Yes. And we're still figuring out location, like which park. Okay. And then I'm gonna email like Jerry at Aero, because that event is happening the 25th through the 27th, to figure out what it would be, what we would need to do in order to have a pop-up at the conference. Because I think, I don't know, in my mind, like I can't remember at what point during our call right now, but I had a vision of like literally all of us being on a video talking to the Aero audience, speaking about Cosmic Labyrinth and like this DAO system that we're creating, because Aero is international and every single person that's involved with Aero is about changing the current system as it is, which is what we're all doing. And I believe that would be a really wonderful opportunity. So that's something that I will research and bounce back to the rest of the group within like the next couple weeks, or not weeks, days.
So to answer that one, Tizzle, is we can, like, it would be really fun to even like host like almost like a cosmic hour, right? Like a Cosmic Labyrinth hour, and people could come in back, like it's like an office hours, and they could come in and out of the meeting, and we can like just host. We're basically getting data points, right? So we can get data points for what teachers would want to be a part of a co-op, an education innovation co-op, right? Like what we're creating, and what would they want to feel to be supported in that space, right? So,
and I'll find out how long, because even if it's like, well, only one person gets 30 minutes, then it's like all 7 of us will get our time and be able to use that. I just don't know how they have it set up, because
we're gonna be like, look, dude, if we're creating the future of education, it can't be based on the old model itself, you know? And like we're gonna be hosting a sacred space, right? Where educators can come and share how we can evolve it. And we're gonna embody it, that sacred space.
Yeah, the students have put together this conference. So I just want to check in with them, because what I copied and pasted earlier in the chat regarding the pop-ups, anyone is able to offer a pop-up session. We ask that you offer these on the break times, not during scheduled presentation times. You are also welcome to offer sessions before and after the conference dates. You will need to provide your own link to whichever platform you're going to use. Please note that these will not be monitored by Aero personnel, which I think is even better. So we have opportunity to present beforehand. We also have opportunity to present after the fact. And I'll just find out all the, stuff so that we do it the right way. And then I'll report back.
I want to share some friction that's coming up with the way that what we just talked about was just described. I don't know the vibe of the Aero event. So the name of the pop-up, I just want to share, I had friction. So putting myself in the mindset of like someone who's thinking 3D, if I hear Cosmic Labyrinth changing the foundation of the future of education, like I have friction when I hear that. So just putting that out there of how do we describe this to possibly a 3D audience where they can come in and discover this rather than, so, because I don't know. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I'll send the-
Yeah.
No.
I can send a link to the Aero conference. I'm not very 3D at all. And I mean, yes and no, but with the Aero conference, the reason why I joined it and was a part of it is because they are so left. And so like this entire conference, which I think is the second or third year, I don't even know how many years, but students created it, not adults. And when I went to it last year, so many of the conversations were just like a breath of fresh air because the resonance of what people were trying to say, or not what people were trying to say, but what people were saying, and like the work that some of the people were doing in their own little pockets was like, whoa, I didn't even know that this thing existed. So there are so many people who are under the radar, and going to the conference just illuminated the possibilities that are out there because of what small groups like us, when we're coming together and what we're doing, and then they're using that platform to talk about it and glean about, yeah, you know what I mean?
It's basically a dog whistle, right? And like, who are we making the dog whistle for? And like, how much time do we have to make the dog whistle, right? And so
Yes.
in this situation, it's in my opinion, right? Like it's about making a very discerning dog whistle. So we really get people, we filter in people who are already are on our vibration, especially if they're students seeking a different model of education and empowerment.
Yeah, I mean, when I presented to them, because in the class they encourage you to talk about your vision, and like I shared the vision that I had with Charlie with one of the conversations, and everyone was like, whoa, astrology in education? Oh man, this is something that I've been like yearning for. And these were, varying aged individuals. And it was really affirming to hear the acceptance of it as opposed to the, what are you talking about? Right. And that was very Captain Card. Anyway,
by the way,
that's clarifying though, to know that is when I say meeting people where they're at, to know that was already something that was received, where it's, meeting astrology with education, like even that being like, this is, I guess, part of the next week things that, like, for me, really wanting to hone in on, of like, what are our table stakes? Like, what are the things that no matter what, this is core to who we are, right? Because my other project, it's gratitude, curiosity, and wisdom sharing. This, if we don't have astrology as part of it, it feels like that is a core leg of our stool, that if that's not a piece of it, it's not who we are. It's misrepresenting who we are. And so is that
I totally agree with you. And it's always smart to think of that ahead of time, you know. I mean, as someone who kind of lives my life like on that line between people who think of 3D and then like kind of my mind does not. It's, you just kind of, like you said, you meet them where they're at, and also relating that we're using ancient tools and technology and things that have always existed. And now we're reapplicating them as the world is moving forward, and we're realizing that the way things are right now are not working. So we have to revert back to our basics, and we have to allow the kids to find themselves and the parents to find themselves through playful education and mindfulness practices. And just honestly, I think it also helps to always remind them that this isn't anything new. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're just repackaging it. Yeah, they're all things that at the end of the day, like, they have a solid foundation. So I think it's really in our confidence and how we say it, and we don't make it like it's like this is like this whole brand new thing. It's like, no, we're coming to help everybody remember our core and our roots, you know. And then you don't place the shame of like, this needs to be different. You allow them the opportunity to open their mind, you know. And it's not even only with kids like that. This goes through the whole process of these new structures, because adults are even more terrified than children are.
Mind you too, in my experience, one of the reasons what gravitates a lot of us to be educators and wanting to be in this space is something that was missing from our childhood, something that was missing from the teachers and the educators we didn't have, right? Or maybe the one or two that we did have that inspired us, but still we're healing parts. So a lot of educators that are interested in reimagining the system are ones who are trying to heal the broken parts within themselves of their inner children, right? So we're also creating, like, as we were talking about again, we're also creating a healing space for potential educators to become better and more empowered and regenerated educators, right? And they don't have to be certified educators either, right? They just are interested in supporting the youth because that's something they want to support within themselves. Really quickly too, I just want to add a really quick thing. I'm teaching a robotics class right now, how to code robots. And I had all my students name their robots, right? And several of my students on their own, they're from different schools, name their robots after their signs. I didn't even tell them. I didn't even bring it up. Just saying. And they're like middle schoolers. Just saying that. All right.
Yeah, middle schoolers are into witchcraft, and it's because a lot of the shows that are coming out, but
and
like
TikTok
astrology
and anime,
all of it. I love it. They're ready.
So I'll say one interesting thing here from my point of view. I think what this new world of like coding and being able to create, and NFTs are a new medium, you know, I think I said this to you guys before, the printing press just kind of throwing up all over the internet is how I see minting NFTs. So a question I have for all of you is astrology something we teach as a program, or is it something that can be programmed? Because the one thing I always get a little nervous about in like anything, whether it's human design, MBTI, is that a person starts to live to this idea of them, or this roadmap that says it's them, but where does your free
It's the
will?
same thing as like the idea of art. When you first learn art, you have to learn the squares and all the different like patterns. But then actually the strength of astrology is to break that pattern as you master it. So you can't meet the unknown when we don't know who you are, basically, right? It's like you got to know your past before you can understand the present. So astrology is kind of like that. Is if you don't even know who you are, you're going to be exploring life blindfolded. But if you know who you are, knowing and leading into that, what happens is when you become a creator, you actually can choose, no, I don't have to be this, I can be that. And that is actually the power of astrology, is you can do that once you know who you are, but you can't do it if you're just copying everybody else. And that's the problem of what's education doing, is you're copying everybody else that isn't you. So you never figure out what your center balance is. So astrology is, with center balance, you can do whatever you want. It's kind of that's why a lot of people are like, am I going to become like this sign, people like will study their chart. I study my chart like every 20 years it changes because your perception changes what you see in the chart. So
mind you, a lot of these ancient technologies like astrology have been commodified, they've been consumerized, they've been whatever, they've been corrupted, right? And includes yoga and meditation, and even, you know, Adam was sharing the box breathing. You think that's a new thing, right? Like these things have been commodified, right? And unfortunately, there needs to be someone who's filtering and re-educating or repurpose. I mean, maybe re-educating is not the right even word, right? For it, maybe we need to clarify,
remembering what we
remember
already
it.
Yeah,
know, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I love whenever someone brings up astrology and they say, well, no, like the idea of someone telling me what I am, I'm like, that's actually not the point of it at all, right? It's a snapshot of when you were born. And that's just like the portal in which you came here. And then it's nature versus nurture. So alone in like the energetics of the earth, you could never be one thing. You have free will. So it's just a system that allows you to know yourself. So that is, I think, why it's called the Cosmic Labyrinth. It allows you to find yourself. So it's just a tool, right? Like, and that's something that I think that needs to be, that point, like elaborated, you know, when we talk about the astrology, it's the guide, just a guiding tool, like how you navigate the world with the stars. You're navigating your life by knowing how you came here. Like, you know, it doesn't mean you're stuck with it.
You guys, do we meet Tuesday night? Tuesday night, shall we?
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Whoever-
continue the conversation, but we maybe make it shorter because I know that at that
Yes.
point, Jackie's, that's like 10 o'clock for her, 9 o'clock for me.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Okay.
I won't be able to join then.
Next Sunday
but-
for sure.
Next Sunday for sure. But I just threw in the chat. So Myers-Briggs, like MBTI, I used to be very much a certain like typograph, whatever, within Myers-Briggs. And over time, I've evolved into, it's a spectrum. It's not like you're this, you're that. It's depending on the situation, where do you tend to lean toward, and that can evolve. Is that the same way with astrology, where, Sarissa, you described it as you were born and this is where you started. This is where you're at. And over time, you can become more of a water sign, more of an earth sign.
In your chart, there are triggers that don't activate till you get older because you just don't have the knowledge of your soul at the time. Like, this is why in TCM and actually pretty much all medicine that you have cycles of time. So like for men, it's called the 8-year cycle. For women, 7-year cycle. So 7 times 7 years is 49. This is usually where menopause happens. The reason for women, 7 times 7 times 2 is 14. So 14 is when they start their period. It's a cycle in their body, and it matches astrology because you're not gonna, like, there are planets like Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. They activate when you get older because your soul becomes more resonant to your soul and your current life, that it clicks in. That's why you hear a midlife crisis happens. Usually that's because something else in your chart clicks in, and then you get an aspect of you that's deeper that gets activated and starts to explore itself.
This as a play shop. So I will say, like, this is all new to me.
Right.
And so this as a play
when you're
shop,
born,
this as a,
your 100 years is written based on how your chart would unfold after that.
but because we have free will, because we had a in Judaism, we stayed up all night the other week, and just the whole conversation revolved around free will, or as what's called bashert, like what's meant to be is meant to be. And where conversation evolved to was how you don't control what happens for you, not to you, but what happens for you, but you can control what you do. So the sign signals, that's all going to come. You don't control that, but you can control your response, and you have your eyes and ears and heart open.
So there's also a slight difference too, is the chart also is split in between 4 quadrants, or technically 2 quadrants. The left one is what's called free will soul that gets to do whatever it wants. The one on the right usually tends to say it connects to source energy. And so there will be messengers in their life that will guide them to where they need to go, because the universe is always having a conversation with them. So, you know, a lot of times it's important to I say destiny and fate is the same thing. Fate is what you chose as a soul. Destiny is what you as your free will is choosing to do. What happens is when you're nurtured incorrectly to go against your code, this is where you get your dis-ease. You're no longer at ease of the natural flow. You go against your code, right? So when
Friction.
people tell you, right, it's like when people tell you, stop being so emotional. You're a guy, you don't have emotions. Actually, you do. And what happens is you go and have you're now uneasy about being emotional, and so your culture, this is where we have cults, right? Cults is culture of enculturation of programming that teaches us, you can't do that. And because of that, and that's why, like in your chart, if you actually lean into that, you will actually start to innovate once you lean into who you are, right? And so that's why it's really important to understand, like, once you know who you are, what happens is fate and destiny becomes the same coin. But it can't, because you're so separate from really the natural flow of life cycles that you don't even know who you are. And because of that, you get in, an uncomfortable state of living. So that's kind of where, like, we talk about, like, get your higher self. Higher self is really like connecting to the stars and the inner message that's happening that matches your fate. And that's what we talk about, this mission that we have in life. That's your fate. And once you own that fate, destiny and free will, like the same thing. Because technically, right, you're in divine order living your life, but you have to flow with nature. And that's why when people who ego-wise fight against, nature tells me I can't do that, and I'm going to keep pushing it, that's when they struggle, or the frustration keeps coming back because they're not living in accordance to their own timing. So that's why astrology is more like, why are you trying to grow plants and vegetables during winter? No one does, but yet you're so hung up that you believe you can do it, right? And then there are those signs that try to do it and pull it off and create something new. But a lot of times, people think that one is separate of the other, but actually they actually connect closer to, you have more powers when you know who you are. It's kind of the story of astrology. Yeah.
So I'll jump in quick. The reason I asked that question was it has to do a lot with what Adam was saying, like meeting people where they are. So Cosmic Labyrinth is very big. That's like two terms that mean a lot, could mean a lot. Astrology is very specific. So I guess it's not that it's not workable, or I'm torn between, I heard earlier, the people that are down with us are going to be down with us, and it's not going to matter, some of those things. But then I also think in my head, just from like a funding and staying with regulation and staying with those things, sometimes, and maybe this is a bad sentence to say, but sometimes it's easier to leave that stuff, like Adam said before, some of the stuff I know I'm doing in class with people, but I'm not plastering it all over the website or whatever.
Yeah, so I mean, if you say, like, how do we turn astrology into 3D? It's actually just archetypal connections and psychology. It's actually the most powerful psychology you can have, because you understand people's triggers before they even need to go turn up. What happens is, in your chart too, you have defense mechanism, and that's usually your rising. Is you will,
or another word, archetypal psychology or relational psychology.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's by the way, Jackie, FYI, Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, they actually became enemies. They were friends, but they became enemies. And because they became enemies, our modern psychology and psychiatry doesn't even acknowledge Carl Jung. Yet he had more of an inclusive practice of psychology. He brought in indigenous cultures. He brought in Eastern psychology. That's what all of this is all about. Unfortunately, when we say 3D is so like incomplete when it comes to psychology,
I mean, I'd love to give you guys both personally like an astrology like boot camp, and personally, not just what we've done online too, because there's deeper things that comes out.
I have to jump here, timing wise.
You're portal jumping, Adam?
Yeah, I'm portal jumping. No. So my wife's here. We're in the hotel room here. She is like the absolute champion. I needed to go like an hour or so ago.
Yeah.
But I was like, Allie, we're vibing. Like, so with all of this, she's like the rock. And yeah, so this though, the translating, so there's Cosmic Labyrinth, like Jackie said, like that is existential big. Astrology is one bit of focus down. Within astrology, though, is how do we translate that? And I would be so excited for on 2 Saturdays from now or whenever, 25th, for us to experience what that looks like. And I would love an opportunity to, because this is where I like the skill that I feel like I bring to the table is put it out there, what we want to put out there, like in our hopes, dreams, like put it out there, like this is what we want to get out. And then let's get feedback from one another and learn how do we translate that? How do we translate that? And so I'd love to be the beneficiary of the 5D, like bring this in there. And then let's try to grasp the essence of what we're trying to get across and distill that down so that Mick can teach 5 teachers this that don't think this way, but can be empowered with what you're putting out there, and they can introduce and creating their own feedback loops, their own ecosystems. And then does that kind of make sense? So I'd love to be, and there's the amount of preparation that's needed for this is like you just being you, which is like a laughter session. That's just indie being indie. So like, because I know since astrology is so core to what, and elements like this is so core to what we're co-creating together, that was a gap that I personally had. Like we'd say things and I'm like, wait, I feel like I need to know what is the difference. Like if I'm Scorpio and someone's a Leo, right? We're expecting a baby at the end of July and people are like, oh, Leo. And I'm like, I kind of get what you're talking about, but I don't fully get what you're talking about. And so we did a thing with just to ground this is we did a thing with my old company where it was at the, what's the museum in St. Petersburg, Florida? The Allie, do you remember the name of this? It's like a really out of the box artist, and they have a whole museum around them.
The Salvador Dali Museum.
Yes. And we did an innovation. It was basically Myers-Briggs for innovation.
Yeah.
And we
So
all took this.
So Myers-Briggs is like the fraction of the depth of astrology. Because
the part that Sarissa brought up was missing.
Yeah, because also Bregman-Myers is an exclusive system. It doesn't actually allow you to do both intuitive and logical. It's just one or the other. In astrology, it says actually depending on the timing and the flow of energy, you are both. And so astrology is more encompassing. I think Bregman's mind is a very reductive aspect of who we are.
But the part that they introduced that was not introduced to me when I learned about Myers-Briggs was, it's not just like, oh, I am this archetype. It's how do I actually co-create with others? So if I'm collaborating with someone else that happens to have a predisposition to thinking this way, or like this helps me bring that into the space better. And so, for example, though, with Myers-Briggs, this is like the one thing that I've taken away from Myers-Briggs is there's the I versus N, the intuitive versus whatever. Who cares what it actually stands for? Basically,
logical, yeah.
One party can, and this is how I tend to talk, is in my mind, everything makes sense. Like in my mind, I can talk here, and there is a cohesive narrative to it. And I happen to need translators and work sometimes for the linear thinkers that this, then this, then this, then that. I have to put a lot of effort in to take the smorgasbord in my brain and have it make sense.
Yeah.
But if I didn't know that there were people out there that like, I would really vibe with people at work, like our project, like our calls would be so fun. Like our reports were so expansive because we'd get all over the place and we just get each other. But anyway, so putting that out there as things that we can help teach of how do we translate for one another, and not just like, oh, you're a Scorpio, that's cool, but more of like, this is how we can apply this to our lives and co-creating.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm excited to be a student with you next week.
I'll definitely pull out my board game down.
Yeah.
Oh man, you're gonna learn so much in like an hour conversation with Charlie. It's gonna blow your mind.
Can't wait.
You're gonna blow your mind.
All right, guys, I got to roll here. but
All
this
right,
was
have a good
just
one.
so
Yeah.
filling from my heart, and yeah, great to see you guys.
Bye, Adam.
Bye.
Any other things y'all need to get off your hearts, and any other chakras?
I can't stop talking today. I know we're all like exhausted. Like, let's go. I'm like that kid in class. That's like,
Yes.
one more question. Everyone's like, put your hand
I know
up.
Jackie has been very, very good at hearing so much of you today.
Okay, so I think approaching this, I was thinking like Cosmic Labyrinth was tapping into a lot of the unseen and sort of hidden and tucked away technologies, systems, like all of it. So that's why I'm like sticking so hard on this astrology thing right now. I'm totally not being like dismissive and I actually did have a very intense astrology period a few years. I was a tarot reader. I was down every numerology stuff. I mean, I've been places, y'all. But so I guess that's why I'm thinking like, to me, it would be more impactful and have more ripple effects if it was overarching to include all of these ancient systems that we may or may not be exposed to, only under, like astrology. All these things can be revealed once people are in, so to speak. But I don't know. I guess that's the only way I'm gonna like say it right now.
Yeah, and I think so I already addressed that in actually a pitch deck to break down the entire process, because technically astrology is book 3. Book 1 is the 4 elements. So it's actually progressive development of the information, because I knew astrology was going to scare a lot of people, but the beginning of alchemy, astrology, and astronomy is the 4 elements, the 5 elements, right? So that's why we focus a lot on the elements this time and not necessarily on astrology. But yes, the idea of astrology.
I'm gonna share that with you, Jackie.
Yeah, and I think just talking it out too, because then you can see where the DAO grows, because you can see the projects to develop this information, and why I'm a plug and play kind of person. I never believed that was one answer for everything. So actually the system is written so that you could rip the entire astrology part out, put in human design or any other system, because the whole idea is the game is all about the character finding the mysteries of life by the ancients, and so astrology is one of them, but we go further into that.
Yeah, I mean, do you think Gene Keys is cool, and we can use Richard Rudd's contemplations in their meditations? It's already done for us.
Yeah. So I did want, so I wanted to include a lot of that, even when we go into, because the astrology actually goes into more of using it as a as a time traveling dial, so that you go into sacred sites, you go into other locations, and you access their astrology. So it's just a portal to get into something deeper. India, I think, is a keynote, not
Yeah, I know.
But
oh yeah, it's a keynote.
That's why I wanted to give
has
Adam
like a storyline. So
Yeah.
this is good. Yeah.
So we are telling our own story, but specifically the education part is basically it's like we're creating Hogwarts, but we're going to create also an underlying Voldemort story where we all are going to go into this journey, but we're discovering our own elements, while there's like this overarching, how do we save the world, with this science fiction character, which is basically like self-shadow, but manifested in everybody using astrology.
Okay.
So we do like shadow work, but like fictionize it, right? In a way.
Right.
Charlie, will you send that to Jackie?
Yeah.
Nice. You want to know what? One of the reasons I feel called to say this, but one of the reasons that I really think that the Gene Keys is a really awesome tool is because he lays out for you the higher aspect, like a higher vibration, if you will, of one trait, like, and then he'll give you the kind of like the lower vibration of it, and then he'll give you by way of. So, it teaches you, like, if this is what's happening, then maybe you're thinking more in fear, not love, right? And then it'll give you the key as to go, you can transmute it by way of this character trait. So it's, I think that that's a really cool part, because it gives people like action steps of like why it's a spectrum. Like, here's the spectrum, here's a little bit of a higher vibration of reaction or response, if you will. Here's a little bit of the lower vibration response, and then by way of how you can transmute that. So I found that like, yeah, kids seem to like that one because it gives them like, oh, I get it. They're the same emotion, but I'm responding differently, you know? But yeah.
Yeah, and Jackie, I've added in the notes something to think of is like, hey, we also a part of the DAO agreement could be like some sort of like initiation, like of your natal chart and understanding like you know that you can't even enter this space and like be a part of this collective. You know, whether you're coming as a funder or you're coming as an educator or even a student, doesn't matter how you come in, you're going to be a student of yourself.
I like that. I remember I got like my human design done, and I think well, I had my natal chart done first, but I remember even like receiving those things, and it's an interesting experience putting yourself first for a lot of people when they never really have thought about, like they've only thought about how they relate and not how they relate to themselves. And I love that being the one thing I would ask you, Indy, is that public knowledge then, or do they own their natal chart?
I mean, that could be the NFT you own.
Well, that's
Right
what I
away.
was thinking. It would be the NFT, and then it's interesting to think how that could be used as like a chip in different ways.
I mean, maybe that's one of the ways we can proliferate it, right? You can say like that first NFT, you get 108 of them, okay? Of your own NFT, they get minted, right? Of your own natal NFT. But if you go and do play shops and you go and like do Charlie's play shop and Indy's play shops and different, and you could be an educator, a funder, whoever, right? If you go do more, you actually you develop your own NFT, so you get more minting of your NFT. I mean, that could be, we could think about ways to scale, right? That the more you self-develop yourself, the more you actually, you generate more currency of yourself.
I love that you use the number 108. That was my dad's favorite number. He used to teach me to like meditate and astral project and everything when I was a kid. And his answer to everything was 108. How many of this? 108, 108. I still reference it like to this day.
Aw,
in my life.
thanks, Dad. Maybe I was listening to him. Yeah. I
He's
mean,
always coming through.
yeah, I'm always thinking about like right now, like how we know that we're printing money, right? And we're generating currency, like we're literally, like the Federal Reserve is printing money, right? Cash. And so we can do that too. But what if we rewarded self-development as how we print currency, you know, like something for us to think about and contemplate.
Yeah, and moving forward too, even with the DAO, I think it would be important. Somebody was bringing up media earlier. You know, basically when you're the minting marketplace, you're the publisher, which if we know anything from media or news, like that's a powerful position to be in. So, yeah. All right, guys, I'm tapped. I talked so much today. That was a lot for me.
It was amazing. It was good. I feel so much better. And Jackie, I really hope you're able to come out here. Please, like, let us know, like, if you find it, if it does flow, let us know what's the thing. You heard Adam earlier, you heard me. So,
well, you know, it's funny, like so many things are just a mindset shift. And it's like if I decided and stopped, you know, and just started doing the actions I knew would like put me in the right mind frame, it would happen. So yeah, everyone pray for me tonight.
I will. I certainly will. And I look forward to meeting you in person as well.
and Sarissa too, I want to acknowledge you, homegirl. Like, I want you to come out here too. Like, what a like a conflict right there that is. At least now we're not doing the SOILstice, so you're not missing that, like the official thing on a farm.
Well, you know, hey, you know what? It's all good. I'm really learning to just listen and know that like what is meant to be is meant to be. And there's so much groundwork that has to be done still, I'm seeing, for so many of these things. So I'm just I'm grounding in, I'm rooting in. I've been flying around a lot lately, and so it's really nice to just be here right now, like on this land. So
She needs you. The Aina needs you, right? She's like, she needs your love and your attention.
I do. I love it here. So like I said, it just grounding in more of my mission of being here. And now that I have the connections from the time and the work that I've already done here in different communities, I feel like it's really awesome to feel like I have the free liberty to reach out to them and create work for myself. So I see this as being the next step, and hopefully having everybody here for stuff like play shops and whatnot.
And I do want to acknowledge you, Sarissa. Thank you for like showing up the way you do. No matter where you're flying or doing whatever, you keep showing up. Like, thank you so much. Like, whether it's through like the WhatsApp or like messaging or like tuning in here, like, thank you. Like, even no matter how distant you are physically, I always feel like it's so awesome to have your witch magic with us always. So thank you.
Oh man, thank you guys. And this is honestly, I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe in it. And if I didn't and you knew me in the beginning, I was like, I'm not a teacher. Like I'm not like, I've never taught in the classroom or done workshops, but so for me, like, this has been a beautiful expansion for myself, just from, what you guys have introduced. And I've learned so much about myself, and I believe in what we're doing. And the more I talk about it, the more it resonates with people. I'm really excited to see what the future holds. So just keep steadfast, y'all.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarissa.
Thank you.
My homework for you, Sarissa, is to contemplate some potions. Maybe three potion NFTs, like possible. I don't know how those NFTs could be, but just contemplate what 3 potions would you want to make as NFTs.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. When you said, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, would it just be like something that's visual, right? Like when I'm thinking of the potion, would it just be like, would it be the recipe? You know what I mean? Like, that's what I mean when I'm thinking it.
It could be like a TikTok video. TikTok video is like 30 seconds or whatever. Like, it could be like the mixing of the things or the grinding, and then like a compilation video. Like, that could even be an NFT.
Okay.
But it doesn't go on TikTok. TikTok doesn't get that. Like,
right.
you know?
Okay, well, that's pretty cool. Okay, I didn't even know you could do that. Thank you. Okay, I will brainstorm.
Heartstorm.
And you're right. I'm doing my best. I gotta connect them both. We just gotta like create one.
Yoni storm.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's why I stayed in today. I got my moon, and I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I was like, I didn't go to the thing I was supposed to go to today. I was like, I'm not going anywhere. It's me and the land today. So yes, I will. I'm in my little red tent bubble, and I will sit with that. And I will also forward over some of the PMA stuff. So whoever's interested can, come and take a look. And through that place, long story short, we had our idea, and then there was another guy who wanted to come in and help make a makery, like carpentry, ceramics, stuff like that. But then because it was a huge space, like Malama Mark's own grocery store, then there was another guy who came in and he wanted to make an impact hub. So we're trying to create a closed system so that we can have all 3, the marketplace, the makery, and the impact hub, so that like they can, but we want to have a place where you can have the workshops and the play shops. So it's like when elders come through or when kids come through, it just is another platform where they can like see how people can come together to have structures,
Nice.
So yeah, we'll see. It's just step by step. Appreciate you.
Share it on the WhatsApp. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Sarissa. Charlie, you good?
I'm good. Yes. Thank you.
All right. I love you guys.
Love you guys.
Yeah.
Aloha.
Have a beautiful start to the week. Bye. Aloha.
Bye.